It's time. Welcome to the show, everybody. Hasan Piker.
Hello, Hasan Piker.
What's going on?
Well, I'm doing a debate. What about you?
That's what I'm doing as well. All right. Wait, hold on. Oh, are you going to show me all the time as well on the Zoom call?
Oh, here, I can fix that. 1 second. Let me just set it to Ethan's output here. There you go.
If you want, just show like, not just Ethan, but yourself as well. If you're going to talk, like that's fine.
Hey, Hasan, leave the production notes to my team. You can switch your show how you like.
Well, you know, they were my coworkers as well, Ethan.
Well, it's been a while, my friends, and guess what? They are not now.
No, I know.
So let's start. I mean, so you did this content cop, right? And I mean, did that go how you expected? It didn't seem to hit very hard.
Before we get started, can I lay some like ground rules so we can have like a productive conversation?
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, I wanted to come on to make this as issue specific as possible. But yes, you have grievances with me, and of course, I think they're valid to address.
Okay.
And of course,
good.
we'll talk about that. Hopefully, I'll be able to address some counterpoints as well, if you will allow me in that process.
Of course. Absolutely.
But before we get started on anything, I would like to potentially talk about definitions so we can have like an established definition on a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about. Is that okay with you?
I mean, it depends how many definitions you got. What do you want to define? I don't want to get bogged down in this, so
I'm
let's...
also experiencing audio issues on my end, so hold on 1 second.
Go ahead. No worries. No worries.
Okay. All right, so you're fine with that?
I mean, up to a point, yeah.
Well, I mean, I
don't want to get bogged down in a conversation.
Gotcha.
Go ahead, start. No, I know you're not. I just want to get going.
So first and foremost, I think we should define what Zionism is and what you mean by Zionism and what I mean by Zionism, so you can understand where I'm coming from.
Zionism is the belief that Jews should have their own homeland in the historic, Palestine area. That's it.
Okay. All right. So I believe that Zionism is a religious ethno-supremacist ideology that revolves around the exterminationist policies of removing the indigenous population that lived in, as you said, historic Palestine, as long as they are not Jews, because it's a religious, ethno-religious supremacist ideology. I think that this is a disagreement that you and I have.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. If you want to add that, like the genesis of Zionism included, the displacement and the ravaging of the culture that existed there, then I would agree with you. I mean, I don't think that the establishment of Israel was like a good thing. I mean, it was tragic and a lot of bad things happened. Ask me a question.
Okay. So, do you believe that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza?
Yes.
Okay, great. Awesome. So you agree with with numerous human rights organizations, the UN?
I already said yes.
Okay, great. No, that's important. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I also agree on this. If you believe that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza, okay, do you feel like you have used your limited amount of time that you have as a content creator speaking out against Israel doing a genocide on the Palestinian population living in the Gaza Strip? Or do you feel like most of your commentary on that issue has overwhelmingly been to rail against people that are doing that? Pro-Palestinian advocates that you feel like you've been wronged by, myself included.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but if you're pro-Palestine, it doesn't absolve you of criticism. That's something that you guys keep harping on. Do I think my coverage?
I don't think that is the case.
Okay. Do you think my coverage has been like totally balanced? I would say no. I've obviously given less time to the Palestinian perspective, and I think the reason for that is simply that.
Not just the Palestinian perspective, Ethan. I think that rather than talking about that issue in and of itself, rather than talking about the genocide itself, every time you have talked
Hasan, I'm answering your question.
Every time you've talked about Israel-Palestine, it almost always revolved around
I was going to tell you why. Do you want to
personal
let me answer?
vendettas that you have experienced from
I was going to explain
that.
that. Okay. Would you like me to? You asked me a question, so
Yeah.
I'm going to answer it.
Go ahead.
The reason for that being is that I feel like I'm responding to a lot of bullshit that's been passed my way ever since leftovers ended, starting from you and your community.
Since you believe that Israel is committing a genocide, what are the appropriate steps that people can take, both in the Western world and also regional actors can take against this entity doing a genocide by your own admission, that you would consider to be appropriate? Because it feels like throughout this entire process, you have set boundaries on what you think is inappropriate.
Just killing civilians, that's the boundary.
As you have set boundaries on what you think is inappropriate,
Killing
and time and time
civilians.
again has said is outright anti-Semitic.
My boundary is killing civilians.
Okay, that's great. So
Is that unreasonable?
That's a perfectly reasonable boundary to set.
Okay,
I
good.
totally
So then
agree
we don't
with you on that.
disagree.
Great. Okay.
Great. So let me ask you the next one. Let me ask you about this top
hold on,
tier
hold on.
tier
I have
list.
Let me finish.
Well, you asked and I answered. Go ahead. You could
Okay.
you could go on a little bit more.
Okay, so hold on. Everyone is complaining about my volume on my side because we're using Zoom instead of Discord. So my fucking
Go ahead.
audio,
It's fine. Take your
my
time.
audio
to get the
keeps
audio
going
right.
up and down. Okay. So one of the first conversations that we had, you and I had, that led to the Leftovers podcast ending, was that you considered "From the River to the Sea, Palestine will be free" to be an anti-Semitic slogan. You said that Jews feel like this is an exterminationist slogan and Jews fear this slogan in the United States of America.
Correct.
If you think that Israel's doing a genocide, do you feel like it is appropriate for Westerners in the United States of America and Palestinians and people of Palestinian descent to be able to use emancipatory slogans, or should they go to jail under the Trump administration?
Okay, I mean, these are pretty extreme questions. Now, I'm not making a value judgment. I'm just trying. All I was trying to do.
What's happening right now?
Bro, do you want me to answer?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to explain the Jewish perspective. I'm not trying to make a value judgment of it. But what I will tell you is that, how do you feel about Norm Finkelstein?
Love Norm. I know he has said that it is.
Here's what he had to say about this.
I know what he said.
No. I want the audience to see this, Hasan.
Can I just?
Hassan, I want the audience to see this video.
Because I know Norm's positions.
Good, I'm glad you know. Let's let the audience know, Hasan. Hey, Hasan, let the audience watch the video.
I can have a nuanced and reasonable disagreement with a person that I actually admire.
So that's what we're having.
Norm. But I have a disagreement with
So
him
it's
on that,
nuanced and understandable with Norm. Let the audience watch the video, Hasan.
Okay, go ahead.
Palestine will be free.
Let me go back.
Slogan
Yeah. Here's the Norm Finkelstein, a prominent figurehead in the Palestinian liberation movement.
Yeah, I know. I have more positions that I disagree with him on after this.
The
as
video
well.
could play, please.
Be free. I think it's a bad slogan. I know the slogan from the 1960s, the 1970s. It was a bad slogan then, and it's a bad slogan now because it has too much ambiguity. When you say "from the river
Someone's going to hit me with the chair react.
to the sea, Palestine will be free," obviously a question arises. Okay, what happens to the Jews in that scenario? And some people will say, well, all it's about is everybody being free, but that's not what the slogan says. So I have, in recent weeks, I have voiced my concern that it's a bad slogan. And I said, just change it, tweak it. From the river to the sea,
My goat.
one person, one vote, Palestinians will be free. And you can't answer that slogan because all you're talking about is equal rights for everyone. From the river to the sea, one person, one vote, Palestinians will be free. And I've encountered
I don't know if he actually means the one vote thing, because I think what he's saying is good in that. From the river to the sea, Palestinians will be free. which
Yeah.
I think is
Norm,
good.
Norm has
You're
also
laughing at
routinely
Norm.
talked at campus encampments, college campus Palestinian encampments as to, I'm not going to make much hay about the slogan in general. There's plenty of other slogans that are.
Well, you're willing to listen to him, but when I say it, it becomes a big controversy.
No,
I'm
telling you
not,
that
it's
I
not
can
even
have a
my opinion,
disagreement with him
frankly.
on that, and you're forgetting one key factor.
What's that?
Okay, you're forgetting one key factor. Norm Finkelstein still ultimately will always say, while I disagree with the slogan because I think it scares people, it ultimately does not matter, and I'm not going to stand in opposition to it. He doesn't say it's anti-Semitic.
When
He
have I
doesn't
opposed
say
it?
It is exterminationist.
When
He
have I
says
opposed
that's
it?
what people think. If you think
When have I
if you
opposed
think
it?
that Norm Finkelstein would be in agreement with you in any way,
He
shape,
literally
or
is
form
in
on
agreement
any
with me.
issue, please have a conversation with him.
He's literally in agreement with me, like verbatim.
Okay. No, that's great.
Actually,
You said
even
it was
more.
Anti-Semitic. Norm doesn't think it's anti-Semitic.
Hassan,
I
do you
want
remember
to
me
ask Norm
advocating against it?
Finkelstein- I
Do
want
you
to
remember
ask
me
Norm
advocating against it?
Finkelstein if he agrees with you on anything.
Sure, I'll ask Norm Finkelstein. Do you remember me denouncing that statement and saying people shouldn't say it?
I believe in our conversation you said
No,
it was
it didn't
You
happen.
said
You're
it was
lying.
anti-Semitic.
I said
that
it's
you-
perceived that way by Jewish people. All right, let's move on. The Sabra
Norm
tier
does not
list.
believe
Now,
it's an anti-Semitic slogan.
very good. I'll ask him about it. Now,
Are
let me
you
ask you
actually
about
going to
the.
do that? Because that would be wonderful. I think that would
Yes,
be
I'm gonna
incredibly
talk to
productive.
Norm. We'll have a great conversation about from the river to the sea.
Is it? Wait, can I ask you a question?
No. It's
Okay,
my
go
turn.
ahead.
You
know
spoke,
what?
and now
You
it's
know
my
what?
turn.
You go ahead.
No, I got it.
Well, okay.
The violent rapes that took place, that is way beyond the pale.
I'm gonna grab another soda, but I'm hearing you.
There is one instance in captivity
Uh-oh, chair react.
that we have.
I'm not going to let you chair react to me, buddy. You grab that
I'm
Dr.
listening.
Pepper. I'll wait.
No, I said I'm listening to you. Don't worry. I was just grabbing another soda. Go ahead.
Beyond the pale.
Is that a?
There is one instance
Did you put a
in
Hamas
captivity.
headband on me?
I sure did.
There is one instance in captivity that we have actually gotten verifiable evidence on. Beyond that, the systematized mass rapes that Hamas dealt on October 7, not a single bit of that has been verified. And people
It's true,
still run
yeah.
with it over and over and over again.
Many young people who were simply attending a music festival. Women were horribly raped.
I can't see myself, by the way, if you're showing
As
my
I said,
reaction.
Oh,
then-
you're giggling. You're
Israel
giggling.
has
It's so
a right-
funny.
has a
No,
right
I'm
to
not
defend
giggling.
itself.
I'm
What
cringing.
rapes
sure
did
are.
Hezbollah do? Bro, what rapes did Hamas do? What are you talking
What
about?
rapes did
The
Hamas
Stop
do?
Anti-Semitism account that considered me to be anti-Semite of the week has also been hallucinating rapes once again, doing rape fantasies once again because they're fucking mentally ill.
Hamas has
You know that-
committed
That's something you go to a lot. You notice that?
What?
Call people mentally ill. Find that odd. Probably should revise that. I don't know if that's kosher for leftist values.
horrific
I'm
acts
not
of
exactly
sexual violence.
I'm
and took-
not exactly doing a lot of stuff that's kosher for leftist values in general.
Oh, okay,
but
so
I don't really,
so you have no problem weaponizing mental health.
yeah, when
I
someone is
don't-
hallucinating, I think it's appropriate to say that. Yeah.
By your authority, I will decide who's hallucinating. Hassan.
Women and girls.
Watch
Okay.
this.
horrific
Ethan,
acts
can
of
you?
sexual violence
Ethan.
and took
Hassan, I am so sorry. You promised that we would watch this. I pulled it up. Now sit silently and enjoy.
But I got the point. You're
Hamas
saying that
has
like
committed
you're
horrific
showing
acts
clips
of
of me.
sexual
You're showing
violence
clips of me saying
and
that
took
someone
Women
is.
and girls,
Wait,
men
what?
and boys slaughtered after enduring sexual violence. The deadliest day for the Jewish people.
Doesn't matter if fucking rapes happen on October 7. Like, that doesn't change the dynamic for me even this much. So that's the other part of this problem that many people that can't contend with. Like,
I can't believe how quickly leftists go from believe all women to pics or it didn't happen. There you go, Hassan. What do you
Picture
got?
it didn't happen. Great commentary, by the way. Okay, so
I mean, it's pretty apt.
okay, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. You did actually. I'm surprised. You did actually show the my findings on the UN committee report that came out. That was
The one that you
a-
misrepresent continually.
I did not
that you fucking
misrepresent the UN
continually lie
preliminary
about the
report.
conclusion.
Wait, what did I misrepresent about the UN
Go
preliminary
ahead. You
report?
tell me. Tell me what it said.
The UN preliminary report was not an investigative report. Like, for example, the investigative report that came out about Israel's systematized sexual assaults that was 49 pages long.
Horrible. What a horrible thing that was.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Unironically.
Absolutely.
Just unacceptable.
The level of evidence in a preliminary report is only enough to actually create an actual investigation. The problem is Israel has denied an actual investigation to take place. Israel has told the United Nations that they are not allowed to do an actual investigation and to simply listen to what they have to say. Now, not only is Israel...
There are literally
let's be real.
women who have said, I was
the Israeli
raped.
government lies?
Do
a
you?
lot?
I mean, all governments lie. I'm not going to defend Israel.
I agree.
You said,
But
Israel there's
certainly
women
lies a
that
lot,
come out
right?
and said, I was raped.
What?
There are women on the record, on video, saying I was raped.
Like you're saying, wait, you're saying there are multiple women that are on the record saying I was raped. There is,
Correct.
as far as I understand, one instance in captivity. It is not
as far as you understand,
systematized
because you don't
mass
give a
rape
fuck about
directed by Hamas.
the reality of it.
What?
Well, of course, that's as far as you can conclude, because you don't give a fuck about the truth.
Wait.
You just want to do propaganda,
Ethan,
remember?
Ethan.
Hasan, please, calm down. You're getting worked up.
I don't know why you're behaving in such a childish manner when we are actually talking about finally some serious stuff. Okay?
Well, okay.
In terms of the UN preliminary report and the findings, okay, there is a clear-cut lack of evidence for any forensic examination to take place due to the incompetence of the Israeli government and specifically the organization Zakah that spent most of its time in the immediate aftermath of October 7 taking bodies out of body bags and putting them into Zakah branded body bags. This was reported by Haaretz as well. They polluted the evidence pool. Okay? That's number one. Number two, numerous people that came out and offered eyewitness testimony have since then been discredited, also according to Haaretz reporting.
Which article?
I can't pull
What's
it up right
the
now.
Haaretz article that accuses victims of sexual assault of lying about it? Go ahead and link me that one. And by the way, while you look for that,
not victims of sexual assault, Ethan. I'm using my words very carefully.
Right.
Not victims
of
sexual assault.
I remember you do that.
Not victims of sexual assault. Eyewitness testimony initially provided that led people to believe that there were sexual assaults that were taking place were then discredited.
Show me the source. By the way, Hasan, while you look for that, I'm assuming that you're quoting the UN Representative Secretary General on Sexual Violence and Conflicts report, right? This is one everyone refers to. Now, are you aware how these kind of papers work? They do a very precise conclusion at the end that summarizes the main thesis and points driven home in the article. That's what the conclusion is. Let me read it for you. Overall, based on the totality of information gathered from multiple and independent sources at different locations, there are reasonable grounds to believe that conflict-related sexual violence occurred at several locations across the Gaza periphery, including in the form of rape, gang rape, during the October 7th, 2023 attack. Credible, circumstantial information which may be indicative of some forms of sexual violence, including genital mutilation, sexualized torture, cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment was also gathered.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'm gonna walk you through this real quick.
Are they hallucinating?
No. So no, you just don't know what words mean. So credible circumstantial evidence. Do you know what that means?
It means that there's, yeah, of course.
Credible circumstantial evidence is not a substitute for forensic evidence. Credible circumstantial
That's why I said
evidence
Piker
is
didn't
not
happen, bro.
enough to
You need rape
prosecute.
kits.
Credible
Hasan needs rape
circumstantial
kits.
evidence is not enough to
Piker didn't happen, right?
prosecute rape, which is precisely the reason why the Israeli prosecutors themselves have said that in the absence of a singular victim coming out, and also with all of the forensic evidence that has been tarnished already.
Show me evidence for anything you're saying.
What?
Show me evidence for anything you're claiming that isn't some unhinged freak on Twitter.
This is
Believe
not an
all women,
unhinged freak
hey?
on Twitter. This is,
Hey, are we
again,
believing
there's
all
also
women
an article
unless
that
they're
you can-
Israeli? Right after October 7th Hamas attack in Israel, Zaka, the disaster victim identification volunteers, were among the first civilians responding on the scene. Zaka is an Israeli rescue and recovery organization primarily staffed by ultra-Orthodox Jewish volunteers, known for their work in collecting human remains for proper burial according to Jewish law. I think what happened is, a lot of what happened is that obviously
I'll
you
send
don't
you the
rape someone and
PBS
then keep them
article
alive,
on-
right? So
on-
if someone were murdered, and a lot of the forensic
I'm sending
evidence.
Dan the PBS article about how 2 debunked accounts of sexual violence on October 7th fueled a global dispute over Israel-Hamas war. This is from May 22nd, 2022. This is about the witness testimony that was discredited. Okay.
But so even if one account was discredited, there's many.
No, it's not one account, it's 2 accounts, but the rest of
There's way more than 2 accounts.
Can you
Hey, Hasan, you know what you're doing? You're like, this girl lied about being raped, therefore all these women need to be questioned. That's actually what you're
Ethan,
doing. You're saying Pixar didn't happen.
Ethan,
I don't believe women if they're Israeli.
Can you point me to actual, like, to victims that came out?
Yes,
Because
yes.
as far as I understand, Israeli police have asked victims and witnesses to testify about Hamas and sexual violence in the aftermath of October 7. And it seems like their investigations were inconclusive because by the admission of the Israeli prosecution,
show me evidence of
that
anything
they
you're
openly
saying.
said that there were no victims that came out.
Yeah, let me guess. You read it on Haaretz.
You don't wait. Do you think that Haaretz is not a credible institution of journalism at this point?
No, but you guys lean on that. You just lie about what it says.
What do you mean, you guys?
Sound
Who
credible.
is you guys?
You and all of your fucking dumbass cohorts that do the same typical, like, rhetorical tools to just say whatever the fuck you want without ever having to back it up or knowing what you're talking about in the least bit. So show me the evidence.
I sent the debunked narratives, and also here is the Israeli prosecutor Moran Gitz has acknowledged that 15 months after the events of October 7, 2023, Israel has still not identified any victims in which a case can be brought against an alleged perpetrator of a sexual attack.
They're
the
all
admission
dead.
is in line with a complete lack of any credible evidence regarding incidents of sexual violence,
They're
which is
all
particularly
dead.
notable when these claimed. I don't know what this is. I don't know what this foundation is, but there is news reporting on this. I don't know why someone sent me
They're
this
all
link.
dead, bro.
What?
Do you think what is your point? What you said doesn't change anything. You're talking about.
Ethan,
do
where
you
are
think
the
that
victims?
they raped people and then didn't
You
kill
said
them?
that there are victims. Can you give me the names
yes,
of the victims?
yes,
I will.
yes.
First of all, I am not in the business of denying rape.
You are.
If they're
Israeli.
If there are victims that have come forward in this process,
I will play it for you.
As I've said, there was an instance of sexual assault that took place in captivity, and it was not the systematized rape that was directed by Hamas, as the New York Times' erroneous reporting that did not meet its own standard, its own editorial standard, as a matter of fact, written by a person who literally was taken off the editorial board, taken off the actual paper for some of her insane tweets about Gaza. None of these, like, there's a lot of stories surrounding this, but I'm not in the business of fucking denying rape. So if you have credible evidence, please present it, and I will admit that I'm wrong. Give me the names.
Yeah. There's a video. Hold on.
Is the video from Screams Without Violence? Is that where you're gonna? You're gonna present?
No, it's not from that. There's one recently of a woman testifying. I think it was either in the UN or to Congress. She's sitting on a bench. She's talking to a mic, and she's speaking in English. Yeah, we'll get there. But like, yeah, I mean, what's your problem with Sheryl Sandberg's documentary?
Sheryl Sandberg has also been accused of sexual harassment herself, but outside of that,
What the
you
fuck
told
does that
me
have to do with what's written in her documentary?
Her documentary is basically the unsubstantiated claims that some of which were directly found to be incorrect. But not only is it unsubstantiated claims, it's just a recycling of the same Screams Without Violence, the Screams Without Words article that the New York Times wrote that didn't even meet its own editorial standard. Okay? We're having this conversation. You seemingly act like you care about sexual violence taking
This is
place
her.
against Israelis. Meanwhile, one of the hostages that actually was returned in the early stages did get raped by an Israeli fitness instructor. I have not seen you talk about that. I have not seen you talk about the Israeli
Why would I talk about
riots
a
that
crime
took place.
that an Israeli did
Israel had
unrelated to
a-
the conflict?
Israel had
You
a
find it
January
interesting. There's
6th
something that I.
Israel had a January 6th style pro-rape riot where a bunch of rabid right-wing
Do you think I'm
settlers
defending this?
Went
Why you? I'm not
to the
defending this.
prosecutor's office and forcibly, with guns, took out 6 concentration camp prison guards from the Sde Taman facility that had actually raped numerous
listen up.
Palestinians on camera, on CCTV
Are you done
footage,
grandstanding? Here's
including
a
one
victim.
that they raped to death.
Are you done? Here's a victim you asked for. Here we go. This is from. I think there was an even more recent one than this, but where's the audio? Fuck. Hold on, let me unmute.
Unable to move and had to ask for permission to use the bathroom. In that house, I was sexually assaulted by the Hamas terrorist who had guarded me. He forced me to go to the shower and entered the room, pointed his gun at me. He was breathing heavily and had a monstrous beast-like face. He meticulously planned his assault, scheming and waiting for the moment to have his way. He kept asking me private sexual questions while sitting next to me in his underwear, lifting my shirt, touching me, and constantly asking me when my period would be over.
Sorry, just to
Can
butt
you-
in here.
can
Is
you-
she
wait, hold
lying
on.
yet or no? Is she lying or hallucinating?
Ethan, have I
Let
ever
me-
said that rapes did not take place, at
Well, you
least according
seem-
to one credible personal testimony in captivity, not on October 7, but in captivity?
Kind of, yeah. Yes,
Over.
you're doing it right now.
What do you mean, kind of?
I knew exactly what
Ethan,
he was
Ethan,
planning to do.
You literally
And yet I
featured.
couldn't do anything.
Wait,
to
pause it for a
prevent
second.
No,
I
listen
was
to what she has
utterly
to say,
helpless.
Hassan.
Ethan,
When
I
the
don't
assault was
disagree
over-
Hassan,
with
don't
this.
silence
You
her. Let her
literally
fucking
mentioned
talk.
Wasn't
me.
even allowed.
No, because you're acting like this never happened,
You're
that it's
mentioning
exaggerated,
my
that everybody's
acknowledgement
lying,
in the
that
video that you
Israelis are just
played.
inherently evil monsters that are responsible for everything
Ethan,
bad that's ever
you
happened. Listen to
acknowledged-
her.
Ethan,
Cry
you
or to be
know.
sad.
Listen to her words.
Ethan,
I had no one to comfort me and was forced to act
Listen to
nice
my
the person who had
words.
just
Listen
sexually
to this
assaulted me
victim. Show her
in the
some
most
respect, Hassan.
horrifying way.
oh, it's so gross the way you're
Not a day
doing
goes
this.
by that I don't think about
Yeah, it's
what
gross.
that terrible
It
man did
is.
to
You're
me. You were held in
definitely a
such
monster,
respect, bro.
brother. That is fucking gross.
No person should ever be
Dan,
subjected
pull the
to
fucking
such
plug on
brutal
this.
and
Holy
ruthless
shit.
treatment. Now,
You really have no problem speaking over a rape victim when they're Israeli.
Dude, you don't give a fuck about rape. Look, what are you doing? Look at what you're doing. I never said that no one ever got sexually assaulted in captivity.
First
in the hands
male
of a
rape
Hamas
survivor of
militant.
Hamas on
I
October
literally said
7th.
in the video,
man who was
that
stripped
you
naked and
showed
raped by
from your
Hamas on October
context
7th,
nuke, in
as
the video
revealed for
that
the
you
first
showed
time, how he
from
was
your
spat on and
context nuke,
humiliated as his murderous rapist laughed. The victim, only identified as Initial D, is the first man to speak about the sexual assault he and others experienced when Hamas elite, the Nakba unit massacred, kidnapped, and raped innocent people enjoying the Supernova music festival. They pin you down to the ground. You try to resist. They take off your clothes, laugh at you, humiliate you, spit on you. Said the
Okay.
victim who's
Okay,
hold on.
listen to me. Listen to my words very
They touch my
carefully.
private
because
parts, they rape
You're
you.
not going through this in a dignified way, and I think it's very gross. What you're doing here is simply weaponizing a victim
Oh, you are
as
so
a
pathetic.
fucking prop. A victim that I also acknowledged, okay?
Silence.
And you know I acknowledged
new
it
footage,
because you
a gun-
posted it in your video that you
Here
just
it is.
showed me.
Here's the clip.
reveals that sexual assault and rape was a regular component of the life as a hostage in Gaza.
Doesn't matter if fucking rapes happen on October 7th.
Hassan, maybe you would like to call her a liar. Please,
You're
go
doing
right
it
ahead.
again
Doesn't
in the
matter if
video,
fucking
ironically.
rapes
Listen.
happen on October 7th.
There are dozens of testimonies from witnesses, most
Dozens
of
of
who
testimonies.
were hiding and heard. Oh, yeah.
Ethan, in the beginning,
Are you denying
said,
that? And
in the
each-
beginning, I'm going to use my words very carefully here.
Wait, there's
in the
more
beginning, you
stories
said on
coming out.
October
There's a
7th,
UN
there were
report.
numerous victims of sexual violence that you said, not me, you said that there were numerous victims of sexual violence that actually came forward. So I ask you for names of the numerous victims of sexual violence on
Showing you
October
people.
7th. Because
Wait,
I
wait,
never
hold on,
said
hold on.
that there was
You're
no
saying
sexual
only-
assault
wait,
that
what?
took place. I, as a
Wait,
matter
you're
of
saying
fact,
they have to
looked
have
at
been
that
on a-
report.
what?
I looked at that same UN report and said that there was valid, credible, firsthand testimony on sexual assault that took
I
place
wish
in
you had the
captivity.
energy
that was
you
not on
have
October 7th.
for the Israelis raping people. As I wish you had the same energy for the fucking Palestinian terrorists raping people. I wish you had the same
I can't
energy.
invent rapes. You have not given me any names. What are you talking
I'm
about?
showing you people and names. What do you mean?
What do you mean? What's with
So
my
vile
people and
to
names?
deny the
I don't
suffering and
understand.
trauma of the victims.
If there are victims,
because
you
you
said
need your
believe
All
healing.
right, you know
women.
what? This is not going anywhere. Let's just move on. Yeah.
What do you
let's
mean?
just-
You can't just let's just move
I gave
on
you
from
two.
this. This is a major point of contention. You have falsely
It's just
smeared me
exhausted.
as a rape denier when you yourself, the one evidence, the one
deny mass rapes
instance,
happened, and you're doing it right now.
instance of sexual violence in
I showed
captivity
two. I just
that
showed you
we know
two.
of up until this point.
Just showed you two.
And I both agree on. You know that
showed
I
you
agree
two.
with that. You know that I've talked about it. You know that I've
No,
acknowledged
you deny
it,
mass
and
rapes
yet-
happened, not that rapes happened.
What?
You deny that mass rapes happened, not
Yes.
that rapes happened. Listen to my words.
Yes, I do. I do deny
Okay,
it.
good. Well, there you
Because
go.
There is no evidence. And for the
I
record,
just showed you two.
The clips that you used, ironically enough, the
Actually,
reason
I
why
showed
say
you
it's out of
three.
context is because at that point, I personally took a position where I said very carefully and very deliberately that mass rapes that are directed by Hamas did not happen. There was no evidence for this whatsoever. Okay.
4 survivors told authorities they were sexually assaulted on October 7th. Report. First-hand account of such crimes have been rare,
And
as
not
most
only-
victims were killed. Hassan.
Do you
Report
feel-
follows
wait,
earlier
wait,
testimony
okay.
from a man who said he was raped by terrorists at the Nova Festival. 4 people have told authorities that they were sexually assaulted by terrorists on October 7th. Channel 12 reports. On Thursday, adding to a growing body of evidence of the systemic sexual assault committed by Hamas. Unlike most of the previous evidence of sexual assault on October 7th, which was largely based on eyewitness testimony, the Channel 12 report is notable because it is based on firsthand accounts of victims. You can yawn all you want. Firsthand
yawning.
testimony of such crimes has been rare because the victims have been killed. Killed, dipshit.
Ethan, do you
they
think when
fucking kill
someone-
them?
do you
According to the
think-
report, 4 individuals
Do you
approached
think
the
when someone
welfare
is murdered
minister with
that
their
there's
account.
no
Sorry,
way to
Hassan.
actually examine?
Sorry,
Do you
talk
think that
about
when-
being gross.
Do you think
Listen
that
to
when
these
someone
victims.
is murdered, there's no way to do forensics evidence to actually
Bro,
conclude?
you know the fucking
to
answer
actually
to that.
conclude that
because
person was sexually
you know that
assaulted.
Jews, you know that the religious organization that is first responders that you cited has a policy of burying the bodies to avoid disgracing
Ethan,
them.
you
That's
just said
what happened.
dozens of victims came out in that article.
I'm
and I don't know
reading
where
you.
that
What are
article
you
is from.
doing, bro?
If you said
I'm
dozens of
showing you
victims
the
came
evidence
out
that
in
you're wrong
article.
right now. According to the report, 4 individuals approached the welfare ministry with their accounts of what happened to them during the Hamas onslaught, which saw blah, 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 1,200 people killed and 250 kidnapped. The report followed a separate Channel 12 story on Wednesday that provided firsthand testimony from a man who said he was raped by terrorists at the Supernova, where hundreds of people were killed. Are these all lying? There are 5 people here. There's 3 that approached the ministry and 1 man who said he was raped. Are these all liars?
I don't know. I don't think they are. I have no reason
Okay,
to
so
believe
then
that
what
they
the
are.
fuck
But
is your
from
point?
everything that I have seen, from everything that I've read on this, and I have read extensively on this, as far as forensic examination has been concluded, there is no evidence, no hard evidence of sexual assault. And I will give you a
I
clip
just
from
read
a
4
Haaretz article
This is
that
so
was posted
exhausting,
by
bro.
Lisa
Uh-oh, here comes the Haaretz article.
Wait, why
I
are
just
you
read you
discounting-
firsthand
I'm
testimony
using-
of 4 people. What are you doing? You're saying that you're not believing the victims.
Ethan, it's
You're
not that I'm
asking for
not
pics or it didn't
it's
happen.
not that I'm not believing the victims.
Where are they?
I'm
You said,
saying
where's
that
their bodies?
since
Pics or it
what you
didn't
have
happen?
mentioned, since the thing that
You're
you
saying pics
mentioned,
or it didn't
okay,
happen,
since
right?
the article that you mentioned came out, there have been further prosecutions on this. Why have they not led to any real prosecution?
They're dead.
No, that's
They're
not
fucking dead, you moron. What do you mean?
first-hand testimony in this regard.
They killed all the fucking Hamas operatives in Israel.
I killed them?
What?
Why are you saying you
Are you
killed
okay?
them?
I said they. Why the fuck would I say you killed them? That's insanely stupid. Are you okay? Hallucinating. Are you crashing out?
Maybe,
Go ahead.
Maybe I misheard you. I'm pretty sure you said you killed them.
Sometimes when you're under stress, you can mishear things, but that's okay.
I might be my mistake. I have you on much lower volume because my volume is very low.
Okay,
so
fair enough.
That's part of the reason
fair enough.
why.
It's a
That's part of
misunderstanding.
the reason why I do ask over and over again what you're saying.
That's fine. I understand. I want people to hear what we're saying, so that's totally
If
fair.
you're saying, if you're
are you
saying
done, or
he's
you want to
gaslighting
keep going?
just clip it and send it to me, chat. It's that simple. Okay. And if you probably said it by mistake, even if you did, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, we done with this one?
Okay. No, we're not. We're not done with this at all.
Okay.
Because
Go ahead.
you're,
I mean, I just read
because
four
the question I
firsthand.
have for you, the question I have for you is very simple. Okay.
Oh, if I said
There
you,
is
I
a-
misspoke.
There is a.
That's my bad. By the way,
Okay,
I may have
it's
actually
fine,
said
it's
you.
Fine. You misspoke.
I apologize.
I don't care.
I didn't mean that.
Let's move
Yeah.
on.
I just
Let's
want
get
to make
back
sure.
to the actual main point of contention here.
The liars.
There
Piker
have
didn't
been
happen.
no rape allegations filed in the October 7 attacks. Not one. Okay? And this is from Ynet,
what?
speaking to Moran Gatz, who I
Gives a
posted
fuck.
about earlier. Moran Gatz is the Southern District Prosecutor's Office in Israel. Okay? She was a member of the Team 7110, responsible for cases involving captured Palestinians in connection with the October 7th attacks. On investigations related to sexual violence, she says, in the end, we don't have any complainants. What was presented in the media compared to what will eventually come together will be entirely different, either because the victims were murdered, okay, this is what they're saying, or because women who were raped aren't willing to expose it. That she excludes here another explanation, says Dropsite News, that no rapes occurred. We approached women's rights organizations and asked for cooperation. They told us that no one had approached them. There were parents who reached out to organizations asking what to do if something happened to their daughter, but they didn't reveal the abuse. So the question I have for you is this, okay? The question I have for you is this. What am I supposed to do in the situation when there are no victims that have come forward?
Four
and the
victims
speculation
just
is that
gave
the
firsthand
victims
testimony. I
probably
read it to
died,
you.
But there's no forensic examination. There has
Piker
been
didn't
no
happen.
justice for these victims in Israel
didn't happen.
on October 7 due to the fact that the government completely ruined.
Crack open a root beer.
Okay. The government completely ruined any sort of forensic examination that could have taken place. There is no way to
Or
actually,
firsthand-
there is
are you-
no
are
way
you
to
actually,
actually
like-
bring justice to these victims. Your assessment on this is so off base because
Hasan, are you listening?
think-
Four
you think-
firsthand victims. I just read it to you.
Okay, but what I'm
Let's.
giving
You know
you
what?
is the
You're
Israeli
right. You
prosecutor's
know what,
office
Hasan?
own
You're right. Let's err on the side of
If there are
these victims
then,
lying.
why are there? Why
Let's
have
err on
they
the
not?
side. No, you're totally right. This is the progressive way. Let's err on the side of these people lying instead of believing them. Let's do that. And
I'm
yeah,
not
they're all
saying
lying.
that they're lying. I'm telling you,
Yes, you
my
are.
confusion on this comes from the fact that
It's not
while-
confusing. It's
while
obvious.
previous
Most of this shit
reporting-
happened.
while
Were killed,
previous
and it's a
reporting
religious.
came out-
It's a
while
religious
previous
part of
reporting
this
came
first
out-
responding unit that they bury the bodies immediately to avoid humiliating them. It's all explainable. Yes. If you don't know that, then you are like woefully misinformed. Which
Dude,
just
what are you talking about? What do you mean? Oh, it doesn't matter. There has to be a forensic examination.
Pixar didn't happen. They bury the body.
No, not Pixar. It didn't happen. You don't think that the victims
buried
deserve
the
justice? What's
bodies.
wrong with you? You don't think these victims deserve
Justice?
justice? Why did
This
Israel
is so stupid.
refuse
Can we please
an
move on?
outside investigative committee to actually,
explain these four
under normal
accusers?
circumstances, the
How do you
United
explain these
Nations
four
or a
accusers?
third party
How
will
do you
come
explain
in
these
and
four
conduct an investigation?
accusers? How do you explain the four accusers?
I don't know why. How
Okay,
do you
very
explain
good.
the prosecutor
Well, let's err on
after
the
those
side of
four
them lying.
accusers? My information is more relevant because it's new.
Unbelievable.
It's newer. Okay. I don't
Okay.
know. I can't.
I guess we're at an
speak out.
impasse here.
I cannot.
I mean, listen, Hasan,
I cannot
we're at an impasse.
disprove
Can we move on?
something that I don't know about when the prosecutor? Do you think the Israeli Southern District prosecutor actually did not examine the testimony given by these victims?
If you don't know what happened in the four accusers, why are you speaking so confidently?
Because I'm speaking about
Because you're a
something
liar.
that
You're a
came out
propagandist, and
after
you
that.
fucking hate Israelis. Can we
What?
move on, please? This is obviously at an impasse.
No.
Oh my
This is
God.
very
I'm
important.
just trying to consider the audience. Everybody wants something else. I'm telling you, dude.
You
This is
have
exhausting.
claimed falsely that I do not
No, I've-
recognize the testimony of a sexual assault that
Okay,
took place in
yes,
captivity. That was
yes.
false. Do you admit
Yep,
that?
it was false. Yep, she lied. It was false,
No,
etc.
no. It's a falsehood that you claim that I don't recognize that. Do you admit that?
Yes, 100%.
So you're
Can we move on?
wait. So you're admitting that you falsely smeared me as someone who is denying a verifiable evidence,
Well, let's take a
verifiable
look
claim
here.
of rape from a firsthand account, and it's not from October 7th.
Okay, yes, I'm smearing you. Can we move on, please?
Okay.
Okay, very
All right.
good. Can you explain this tweet to me? This is your tweet, and I'd like you to summarize it for me. Here it is. You said, go ahead, you can read it for me and explain the picture.
I can't. I don't know where it is.
Oh, so you can't see it?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Okay, very good. I guess what's the is just a little delay for him?
No, I can see it. Bro really said my lived
Yeah.
experience in Israel proper. Great.
What's the picture?
This is zone of interest.
What?
You're familiar, yes?
Explain for the audience what this picture entails.
This is Zone of Interest, which is a Oscar award-winning movie depicting the banality of evil during a literal Holocaust taking place, the monotony of the day-to-day existence, the beautiful garden that
And your implication is what?
Rudolf Hess and his family put together.
And your
while
your
in the backdrop, you can
implication
see there is a
is what?
concentration. There's a concentration camp, Auschwitz.
Your
and, there's a
implication
train
to
that
me is what?
most likely inferred to be sending Jews into the
This is the clip
concentration
you're. What are you implying with this photo?
not a, what photo? Oh, with the photo. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's begin. This is going to finally cause us to talk about Israel-Palestine.
Bro, just explain and
By
what
your
you're
own
trying to
admission,
say.
there is a genocide that is taking place in the Gaza Strip. By your own admission, there is also an apartheid structure both in the West Bank, but I don't think you believe that there's an apartheid happening within Israel proper by your own terms. Do you
I don't think
feel,
it's. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So do you feel as though Israel is somehow inseparable from both of these actions?
No, but obviously the conditions are different in Israel proper versus the West Bank versus Gaza.
Do you feel like
West,
you
I mean,
going
the
to
West Bank has
Israel amidst
checkpoints. It
a-
has like different areas of zones of interest. People don't have freedom of movement. So obviously that's more apartheid-like than the main body of Israel.
Yeah. Don't you feel like you going to Israel proper would actually resemble someone going to, someone going near Auschwitz and being like, well, it's actually beautiful there. It's not that
Not
big
at
of a
all.
deal.
No.
It's multicultural. Oh, you don't see the comparison. Well,
I
Jonathan
mean, where
Glazer,
Israel?
who made
You mean in
this,
Tel Aviv? So
Jonathan
you're
Glazer,
saying
who
that
made this video, Jonathan Glazer, who made this Oscar-winning movie, does see the comparison.
So hold
He
on.
said
You're
as
criticism.
much in his
You're
Oscar
saying
award.
All I said was
winning
my
speech.
lived experience in Israel proper. Is the problem that Israel proper? That sounds racist or something?
No, I think you're trying to present Israel as a beautiful multicultural land when it is directly doing a genocide across the border boundary, okay?
Yeah.
And also is an
I
apartheid
make a distinction.
on a good day.
Yeah, I make a distinction for sure.
You can't compartmentalize
I lived there for
proper
5 years
from
in
the
Tel
crimes
Aviv.
that is happening 6 miles away, Ethan. That's my point. So saying
6 miles from where I live in Tel Aviv? 6
I don't
miles
know
from
how
what?
many miles away it is from exactly
It's
where
a
you
lot
live
further
in
than
Tel
6
Aviv.
miles. What the fuck are you talking about?
I don't know how many miles away it is. That's not the point. It's close
No,
enough
so
that you
your
can
po-
see
well,
it. If you
the-
go to Sidorov, you can watch it. They call
The
it the night
point you're
cinema.
making is that everybody living in Israel is living next to a concentration camp.
Yes. A death camp.
So I said, bro really said my lived experience in Israel proper, and you're saying that I am a Nazi officer living casually and enjoying life
no,
as
you're
people
not
are
directly a Nazi officer.
Well, that's what this says.
No, Ethan, you're taking it a little bit too literally. I think the point there with that imagery is not that it's a Nazi officer.
Why did you choose the
is
one
that-
with the guy standing in it?
Well, I'm actually interpreting the work of art in the exact same way that Jonathan Glazer, who made this piece of cinema, interpreted it. The entire point is you can have a wonderful life as an American Jew in Israel. Of course you can have a wonderful life in Israel. That's the point, because Israel is a ethno-religious supremacist apartheid state that is currently doing a genocide. It is the entire underlying principle of why this nation state was founded. That's what it was founded on. It was founded on exterminationist principles of the indigenous Palestinians, which you seemingly agree to. So yes, if you actually think Israel is doing a genocide, then it comes across as rather odd that you would go to Israel to show how multifaceted and how wonderful Israel is. It would be exactly like someone saying, oh, you don't understand. I'm German. I am going to Poland. I'm going to go to Warsaw. I'm going to go to Auschwitz, and I'm going to show you how wonderful Auschwitz looks like, because it's German territory.
Okay, thank you for. Okay, I lived in Tel Aviv. I worked beside Palestinians. I worked with them. I took the bus with them. I walked around the streets with them. I went to the restaurants. They worked with me in my businesses. It's not what people expect. That's my point.
Yeah, that would be lying. That would be lying to your audience about the actual
I lived there for 5 years.
totality of Israel. You want to talk about my totality of anti-Semitism inferred off of like hyper-specific, narrow definitions that you have invented in your mind? Talk about the totality of a country that you recognize is doing genocide. You think it's appropriate? You think it's appropriate to go to Israel while there is a fucking genocide going on by your own admission?
You did a show with me and you considered me your friend, and you knew that I was apparently a Nazi officer that whole time.
What?
I said you were considering me a friend. You did a show with me. You knew I lived in Israel that whole time. I'm surprised you were willing to work with a Nazi officer.
I also have interviewed members of the Knesset, as a matter of fact, like Ofer Kassev. I have interviewed Israelis from the anti-Zionist youth movement Mezarvot, Israeli members, Israeli Jewish citizens that have refused service, refuseniks. I don't have an issue with people that have lived in Israel.
I don't know what you're going on about.
Some of the reason why I know the total and utter depravity of the inception of Israel comes from Exeter University's very own Ilan Pappé. His writings are what guide me. Of course, I don't have an issue with people that have lived in Israel and no longer live in Israel, or even still live in Israel, as a matter of fact, as long as they are anti-Zionist. Because I care about Zionism as an ideology.
Bro, you're just gish galloping.
I do not
just
care about Jewish people or Israeli people. These are not a part of my consideration, because I believe in the best of people. I believe that people, regardless of the circumstances that they've been presented with, can see right from wrong. And I thought foolishly that you were one of these people. I foolishly thought you could also see right from wrong. But it's obvious to me that you have simply used what is going on for the past 16 months of horrific
do you want me to respond?
And starvation.
Hasan, you got to stop. You got to stop with the gish galloping. I know. You're righteous and I'm evil.
To you my position.
Let me respond. I agree with you. I think that my characterization of it as a utopia, like in that moment, was distasteful, and I wish that I had said that differently. And I see that it came off bad. It came off bad, and I was wrong on that one. I totally agree. Watching that clip back, I'm regretful about how I spoke about it. So I agree with you.
Okay, that's fair. I see. This is. I wish you were this open-minded for the past 16 months, Ethan, because I feel like a lot of the conversations that have taken place.
My problem is not with your philosophy on Palestine. My problem is with your community and the harassment you've leveled against me and my family.
People make inferences off of what you say. They do not know what's in your heart. Okay, and this is something that I privately.
We agree on a lot of things. The issue is the harassment.
To you about in the beginning after October 7. I told you time and time again privately.
Okay, bro, you've talked a lot. Let's just move on, please.
The reason why people think you are a Zionist is not because you're Jewish, but because of what you're saying. They heard your
What did I say that's Zionist?
And they made these inferences.
What have I ever said that shows that I'm Zionist?
Ethan, the way that you have tackled the subject matter.
Say one thing that has shown the world, undoubtedly, how Zionist I am.
I mean,
that I am worthy of the scorn of you
just
and the
recognized
entire
how
left.
wrong that was. What you just said. So that's one.
Okay,
that's
but
one example.
does that mean I'm a Zionist? I mean, and by the way, that was a recent clip. That doesn't explain the last 2 years.
Yes, it doesn't. And there's
So
plenty
what did I
there as
say in
well.
the last 2
There's
years
plenty
besides
there as
that
well.
clip?
What
did I say, Hasan? What did I say that's Zionist?
Month, as
You
recently
can't give
as
me
last
one
month,
fucking contextual example of me saying something that's Zionist after
Yes.
this entire. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
You have something?
I have many things. As
List
recently as last
one.
month. As recently as last month.
List one example of me
I'm
saying
giving you
something
another
I
example.
Zionist.
Just calm down and listen. As recently as last month,
You're not answering
you
my
talked
question.
about
You're just
how
doing this gish
Hamas is
galloping.
Hamas is actually putting hostages inside of hospitals. Hamas is actually using tunnel systems under hospitals, and that is part of the reason why Israel is bombing hospitals. Bombing hospitals is a war crime. Okay. Bombing hospitals is a war crime. In your conversation
defend that.
with Sam Cedar, while on the one hand, you now recognize that Israel's doing a genocide, and you have in the past as well, for sure, but you've also gone back and forth on it, and you've called it a war
Absolutely
or
not.
whatever.
Never.
But having said that, in your conversation with Sam Cedar, you thought you had a gotcha where you said that, well, I find it very strange that there's not a single bomb shelter in Gaza.
That's a condemnation of Hamas.
What?
That is a condemnation of Hamas.
I think that's a
Failure
condemnation
to protect
of
the-
your assessment of reality.
How is
Look
that
at
pro-Zionist?
the Gaza Strip. Do you
How
think
is
a
me
bomb
criticizing
shelter would
Hamas
actually
pro-Zionist? Would you like to
survive?
explain that?
Do you think a bomb shelter would actually survive bunker buster bombs? What are you
Be a lot
talking
fucking
about?
safer
There's not a
than
standing structure remaining
the
in most
seventh
parts
floor
of
of an
Gaza.
apartment building.
For Israel to actually systematically destroy every
You're
hospital
okay with Hamas
implies
spending
that
the
a bomb shelter
totality?
would just simply
Can I
be
ask you a
fucking
question?
crosshairs.
Can I please ask you a question? Again, me criticizing Hamas makes me a Zionist?
You criticizing Hamas makes you a Zionist?
That's what you're
I
claiming.
mean, it depends on it depends on what you're saying. Yes.
Well, you know exactly what I
You can
said.
have criticisms of Hamas in terms of like their own internal domestic affairs, in terms of their governance. But if that's your hyper focus, then yes, people are going to make that inference that you are definitely against any kind of resistance against the state of Israel, because the
Because they don't make bomb
Palestinians-
shelters?
Because your expectation
they don't make
from
bomb
the Palestinians
shelters?
is to just simply sit there and take it, so you can fucking act like you felt bad 10 years down the line.
Everything that you claim, the whole fucking apparatus of harassment that exists across social media with you at the center of it, infringes on an inference that you maybe meant this. I have never once said I'm Zionist. The only reason people believe that is because you repeat it
No,
maliciously
the reason why people
time
believe that
and
is
time
because
again.
of your hyper focus on
Name one.
you, and your distractions.
That makes me a
away,
Zionist?
And your
That makes me a
deliberate
Zionist?
deplatforming attempts towards pro-Palestinian content creators. It is ridiculous. You
Being
simply
pro-Palestine
say
doesn't absolve you of
recognize
guilt.
the genocide, but you also literally get mad at people who fight back. You get mad at the
So I'm
Houthis. You
public
call
enemy
them
number one.
terrorists. You call Hezbollah
For
a terror
defending
group, which
myself.
is by the American state's definition, absolutely considered a terror group. But there are plenty of terror groups that have successfully
do you not
resisted
consider Hezbollah a
against
terror group?
American imperialism and other forms of settler colonial violence.
Do you not consider Hezbollah a terrorist group?
I think the definition of terrorism by the American State Department is intentionally vague to deny people their
about the-
habeas corpus, deny people their due process. It is there to justify whatever kind of militant action that the American government can take. This is a severe violation of the American
Okay,
Constitution.
very good.
So yes,
Hasan,
I
please.
think that
I
this
want to have
definition is
Can
intentionally
I
vague
give
and
you?
it's
Can I
fucking
ask? Can I request something?
is silly.
Can I please request something? I'm interested in having a conversation. You take this and you just go on and on and on and on. You repeat yourself. You double down on the same point. I just want to have a conversation. You make your point and then you move on. You're doing too much. Please.
The
we're going to
American
be here.
terrorism designation is silly. Do we agree?
I don't know.
What
But
do you
do you-
mean?
well,
But you-
well,
but
here,
you
I'll be more
use its
precise.
definition without ever actually thinking about
You're right.
it. What do you
Fuck
mean?
it. Let me be more precise. Here's what you said.
Allah is a paramilitary organization.
Do we like them or no?
They are a terrorist organization. Like they're designated. They are designated by the American state as a terrorist organization.
I do not like them then.
Well, like
I like what you like.
I don't have an issue with them. Let's just say.
What did you mean by that? You do not have an issue with Hezbollah.
Yeah, thank you for asking. Exactly. All right, let me explain. I do not have a single issue with the way that Hezbollah has defended southern Lebanon. I do
Me
not
neither,
have a single
actually.
issue with Hezbollah as a form of militancy trying to incur penalties on the genocidal state of Israel. Because if you recognize that it is a genocide, then what is the expectation from other parties involved in the region? The very fact that other countries, the very fact that
You're
other
doing it
countries are not
again.
also up in arms is ridiculous, considering that Israel is a belligerent force that is destroying everything in the fucking region because it has an underlying exterminationist policy. And you agree with that because it's a genocide. You said it's
Let
a
me speak,
genocide.
please.
So what is the expectation?
Hasan, please, this conversation is becoming impossible if you don't just stop talking for a minute and allow me to respond.
Okay.
Okay.
Now respond.
Thank you. Thank you. Hezbollah, when it was first founded, I think was a noble thing, right, of defending Lebanon from the IDF invasion, and they were successful in sending them back to Israel. Now, since then, a lot of terrible shit has happened, right? And you sat there and you said, "I do not have a problem with them." So, do you not have a problem with what Hezbollah did in Syria, mass murdering civilians on the behest of Assad?
Can you find a single instance where I've actually said I have no problem with Hezbollah's actions in Syria?
You said, "I don't have a problem with Hezbollah."
No, that specifically.
You know what's so funny?
Do you feel like that is the entirety of my conversation? Because I have talked about Hezbollah's actions in Syria, as a matter of fact, and I do have a problem with that. Yes,
You're precise with your words, right?
I don't think that I don't think that harming civilians is in any way, shape, or form remotely correct. Now, having said that, I'm glad that you brought up Hezbollah because, again, in your video, you falsely claim that Hezbollah is responsible for 500,000 deaths in the Syrian conflict. Okay?
Yeah.
You say that Hezbollah is responsible for 500,000 deaths in the Syrian conflict.
They participated.
That is the entirety
They
of
participated.
the deaths, including the Hezbollah militancy in the Syrian civil war.
And therefore what? They did nothing wrong?
No. That's not what I'm saying
So
at
what
all.
does it matter the exact count?
You
Why does
erroneously
that bother
claimed
you?
that they were responsible for all the deaths. You stood in front of
they collaborated.
footage. You stood in front of footage of an entire town that was destroyed by what?
Yeah.
By barrel bombs. Who has the capacity to have a air force and use barrel bombs to destroy an entire city? Do you think Hezbollah has an air force?
They
Ethan?
participated.
Is that why
You're not
you-
listening.
Is that why
You're
you
being
implied
silly.
that is that why you posted that photo?
Why are
when
you
just-
defending Hezbollah's action in Syria? Do you
I'm
think
not
that's a
defending
good look?
that. I'm not defending
You
their action.
sure are.
I am
You'd be like,
asking
Hezbollah didn't
you,
do that.
Do you think
Hezbollah would never blow
has
up
an
a
air
village
force?
in Syria.
Do you think Hezbollah has an air force?
Do you think I think that?
Well, you implied it when you
I
showed
keep
a
telling you,
hollowed-out town that
they
was
worked.
barrel bombed,
They
most likely
worked
by
with
Russian
the
forces.
government, bro.
So why? Why did you use that imagery to imply that Hezbollah had killed 500,000 people?
They were
complicit.
complicit.
This is my main problem with you, Ethan. You are spreading.
You're defending
falsehoods.
terrorism right now, by the way.
What?
You are defending a terrorism right now.
No, dude, I'm defending the truth. How is this so hard to comprehend for you? I
The
never
truth is,
have
what
once-
Hezbollah did in Syria wasn't that bad?
They did not kill 500,000 people in
Okay,
Syria.
so wasn't that
Ethan.
bad? So what
You are
Hezbollah did in
taking away
Syria
the
wasn't that
responsibility
bad?
from
How
the
many did they
Assad
kill?
regime. You are taking away the
You're
responsibility.
minimizing their actions. How many did they
You're taking
kill?
the responsibility away from ISIS. You're taking the responsibility away from the Russian
No,
military.
I'm putting blame on
It's
Hezbollah where it
ridiculous.
belongs. How many did they kill?
I don't even know the exact number of how many they killed. I believe it's like around 2,000 to 5,000, which once again is inappropriate. I have no issue saying that.
Did they collaborate with Assad?
They did. Yes, they did. They did.
And so what is the issue here exactly? You said you have no issue with them. I think that's a problem.
I've described it numerous times at this point. I have no issue with Hezbollah's militancy against a state that is conducting a genocide. That much is very clear.
You didn't
As
say
a matter
any
fact,
of that.
there are
You said,
plenty
I
of
do not have a
instances where I've
problem with
talked about-
Hezbollah.
As a
You're
matter
lying.
of fact, there are plenty of instances where I have talked about
You're lying.
Hezbollah's militancy in Syria.
When you're
as
done
a
lying, I'll
axis
explain.
Wait, what?
When you're done lying, I'll explain. You
I'm
didn't
not-
say that.
What do you mean?
You
I'm
said
lying. I'm telling you
said,
what my position
You were talking
is right
to a
now.
normie. You were talking to a normie who didn't understand anything about the conflict, and he said, well, how do we feel about Hezbollah? A general question. How do we feel about Hezbollah? Your answer was, I don't have a problem with them. Let's just say. And then, by the way, Hasan, you start trying to minimize their inclusion in this fucking wanton slaughter of Syrian civilians.
Wait, what? I'm minimizing their inclusion in the wanton
designated by the
slaughter of
American
Syrian
government.
Here's what
civilians?
you said, because
Dude,
you want to be
just-
precise.
You made up.
I do not like them.
You came.
Well, like,
I like what
Ethan,
you like.
You
I don't have an
stupidly
issue with
said
them,
that they
let's
killed
just say.
500,000
This is-
civilians. What are you talking about? I did not minimize their wanton slaughter in the Syrian civil war.
Do you think that they didn't participate with Assad to make that happen? I mean, they were
did.
allied. They participate. Okay, so then why are you defending them?
I'm not defending them.
You sure
Ethan.
sounds like it.
I have already described to you that I am critical of their actions. You are misquoting me. You are misunderstanding.
I'm verbatim
what I'm
repeating
saying,
what you
and
said,
I'm having
you
a conversation
liar.
directly with you, so I don't understand. I'm not.
How can you
minimizing
lie
what
to
they did.
people? Like,
I'm
we
minimizing
just watched the clip.
the arbitrary number that you put there because you don't do enough research.
No, that number was based on the totality of deaths. My claim was that they participated in it. You were not critical of their actions
Why
in
did you
this
put
clip.
so you're telling me you've never claimed that Hezbollah has killed more Muslims than Israel has, that IDF has?
I don't know when I think I did say that, and I think that was wrong.
Yeah,
I was
you
incorrect
said that
on
numerous
that.
times. You actually said you chat
I don't think about numerous
against
times.
AB when AB was like, I don't think that's correct.
Yeah. By the way, I that's something I looked into, and I was actually wrong about that for
Okay.
sure.
Don't you feel like this kind of misinformation is somewhat? Don't you think that saying stuff like that is going to make people infer that you might be more pro-Israel than you let on?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't
mean
work
I'm
like
Zionist?
this, right? You're not just like clicking a box and you're like, well, I said it was a genocide. What more do you want from me? Okay, you did. But then you spend all of your time criticizing people,
Responding to
who are
harassment.
offering analysis and not justification, but
Can I
analysis.
can I
how these
flip it on
groups
you
are
a little
actually
bit?
Formed. You're upset with people
Can I
learning
Hasan, you're doing
about,
it. You're doing it again.
Well, I'm not doing anything. I'm
You're just
hoping
talking,
to
bro.
explain to you something so you recognize that you're wrong, as you've done twice
No,
now.
you
so
don't need to
this is
explain
productive
anything to me.
now.
I understand your point. Don't you? So you're accusing me of being irresponsible with my words. Don't you think saying you have no issue with Hezbollah makes people think you're pro-terrorist?
I don't care that people think this. It's ridiculous.
So are people valid for thinking you're pro-terrorist when you say?
Do you believe the State Department's
Answer.
designation for terrorism
Whoa!
is
Answer the
valid?
question. Is it reasonable for people to think that you are pro-terrorist when you say I have no problem with Hezbollah?
Do you believe the State
Whoa!
Department's
Answer the question.
designation for
You
terrorism
gotta
is
answer
valid?
that one. You answer my question, and I'll answer yours. Are people
Ethan,
valid
you
in
rely
considering
heavily on your
Can you
audience
answer?
not really understanding the
please
terms that
answer
you
my
are
question?
using.
Let it
okay?
be noted
When
you are
say,
dodging-
Oh, Hasan defends terrorists. Okay, there's a
Literally
reason
just
why
did.
you say that. You say that to disparage
literally
me
just did.
without actually addressing my arguments. And now, when you're faced with me, face to face, to talk
God,
about
bro,
these
you're
issues,
doing it again.
you agree with me. So if you agree with me, you called Hezbollah a noble group. Should I just run around being
beginning,
like,
shit
defends
changed.
terrorism? I think you do, but for a different
I
reason.
said their
and we'll get to
actions
that in
were
a
noble.
second.
I didn't call them a noble group. Again, you have a problem with the truth.
You just said that their inception
I
was
said their
a
actions
noble
were
one.
noble.
You said
Yeah.
Hezbollah was.
It's different from saying Hezbollah is a noble organization. But I really need you to answer this. Isn't it reasonable for people to assume you're pro-terrorist if you say stuff like, I have no problem with Hezbollah? Just answer the question, yes or no?
I don't think it's reasonable for people to assume that I'm pro-terrorism because I think people are going to assume that regardless because I am
But people can
presenting a
assume I'm
position-
Zionist. But it's
What?
okay for people to it's okay for people to assume I'm Zionist.
Yes. Because
Got it.
No,
The
you don't
logic
understand
is
what I'm saying.
clear.
I get why people assume that. I get why people assume
I get why
fucking
people assume
pro-terrorist.
you're pro-terrorist.
Yeah. Do you feel?
Do you?
Okay, let's talk about that then. Do you feel like someone being branded pro-terrorist is as impactful under the Trump administration as someone being pro-Israel is?
Well, as someone who's been branded as a pro-Israel Zionist in my space, it is a horrifically fucking it's resulted in the unbelievable, unprecedented. I've been on the internet for 10 years, right? I've been through all kinds of controversies, all kinds of shit. I have never once in my entire life, Hasan, experienced the amount of harassment, the organized, psychotic campaign to try to ruin my life,
Dude.
all of my stop. All my employees' life, my family's life, their family's life. This is your community acting in response to what you're saying about me being pro-Zionist. So do I think it's worse? In my experience, it's much worse.
That's done any of these things that you're talking about.
You said that the Houthi Luffy was not a pirate.
He's not.
Or I'm sorry, not Houthi affiliated.
He's not. But even if he was, I wouldn't care. I hope you understand that. I do not.
That's rewriting history.
I'm going to say this very clearly.
No, it's not that you cared. It's that you fucking glazed him up.
Right now, 10 toes down. Are you ready for this?
Go ahead.
I believe what the Houthis are doing in terms of stopping Israel doing a genocide to implement a blockade on the Red Sea is a good thing. 10 toes fucking down. They are on the morally right side. Don't you also think they're on the morally right side?
What have they done?
You're saying that it's a genocide. What the
have they
fuck
done?
are they supposed to do?
They hijacked a boat that had nothing to do with Israel?
That's
like
not
fucking
true.
bravo.
That's not true.
Really? What was that? What did it have to do with Israel?
It was literally owned by an Israeli through the fucking
It was partially
islands.
owned. Is a big multi-conglomerate company that was partially owned by an Israeli.
Yes. And
it was bound for fucking for Turkey
matter.
from
What do you mean?
India.
What do you think
they
BDS
kidnapped
is, dude? What do you
5
think BDS stands
totally
for?
unrelated Filipino
You also
fucking
said it
prisoners
wasn't
and
owned by an
kept
Israeli,
them
by the way,
prisoners
in
for a
your fucking
year.
video. Are you going to take that back too now? Now you admit that you were wrong on that part too?
Take what back?
Wow, what
I
are we
didn't hear
on?
you.
4? 5? How many points have you actually backtracked on?
I don't know what I don't know what you're accusing me of. What was I wrong about?
You said in your video that it had nothing to do with Israel. You claimed that it wasn't owned by an Israeli
Partially owned by an
conglomerate.
Israeli guy?
You were wrong.
Partially owned by an Israeli guy? It's British owned. It's owned by a
is an
British
Israeli
company.
conglomerate
It's
that
owned by
owns
a
the
British
fucking
company.
ship.
So it's owned by a
You
British
literally claimed
company.
that it was owned by Isle of Man. It was an Isle of Man ship. Like you
It
think
is.
all of these ships mysteriously are just owned by that, and it's not a fucking easy flag to
How
get.
much of this so if this Jewish or this Israeli guy
0.5.
if this Israeli guy, how much does he need to own of this business that owns this boat to justify? Is it 0.1? Is it 0.2? Is it 5%? How much?
I don't know, and I don't care because I think that even if they
you should.
even if they got some of the ships wrong, I still think they're on the right side. Don't you?
I mean, like, I agree
I'm not
with
even conceding on that front, by the way, because I do think that once again that was owned by an Israeli conglomerate, and you
No, it
lied on your
wasn't.
fucking
That's
video.
an outright lie. You're lying. It's not owned by an Israeli conglomerate. You're fucking lying. That's an outright pathetic lie.
You said
And
it
you're
was
basically
an
running
Isle of
defense
Man.
for a
You
terrorist
said the flag
organization.
was on
Now,
Isle of Man.
do I defend what they do? I think what they're doing, their message is good. Their method is terrible.
Oh, wait, dude, let's ring up the fucking Al Houthi family real quick. Tell us how you would stop a genocide when you're the poorest country
Well,
on
not
the fucking
hijacking an
planet
unaffiliated
that
boat and
withstood-
kidnapping 15 fucking nationals and holding them for a year. How is that helping
Yeah,
anyone?
that's another thing that you actually got wrong, by the way, that even fucking Willie Sloptube called you out on. Those people, by the time you had released your context puke, those people had been released. What would you do, Ethan?
I remember.
What would you do?
I said they were prisoners for a year. I know they were released. It literally happened like the day I was finishing the video.
You couldn't.
They were
put
held.
it in there,
Were they held
you know?
prisoner for a year? Were they
You
held
couldn't-
prisoner for a year?
you
Were they
couldn't
held
put it-
prisoner
you
for a
couldn't
year?
put it- yeah, they
were
were,
they
they
held
were.
prisoner for a year?
Yeah, they were. They were held
That's
hostage.
what I said. Thank you.
Yeah, they were held hostage for sure.
So how's that help Israel taking a bunch of Filipino fucking unaffiliated
Do you understand
sailors
the concept
hostage
of
for a year?
deterrence?
Well, how's that deter Israel? Kidnapping fucking
Do you understand the concept of
foreign
deterrence?
sailors.
Yes.
How is that a
stopping-
deterrence?
It is a show of force to stop successfully, mind you, to stop other commercial
Not really.
shipping from going through. They literally bankrupted an entire Israeli port. I'd say that's numbers on the fucking board, baby. And like I said, 10 toes down, support that initiative. Because if you believe it's a genocide, what the fuck are they supposed to do? Should they allow their coastline to continue having commerce as though as though nothing is going on up there in Palestine, where Israel is doing a genocide in Palestine? How do you think the Yemeni population should have responded to the Israeli genocide? Should they have sat back and just let it happen?
Yemeni is not Houthi, by the way.
And also, they can't say, obviously, they fucking can't say from the river to the sea, Palestine, because that scares you, Ethan. So obviously they can't do that either. So what
scares? I mean, it doesn't. It's what Norman Finkelstein said.
Pro-Palestine in a way that you think is appropriate.
Where your example is hijacking an unaffiliated ship and kidnapping 15 sailors?
It's not unaffiliated, but even if it was unaffiliated, as I've said already, if it was unaffiliated, that wasn't unaffiliated. You lied about that, and you recognize that you lied about that for the record. But if it was,
people can look into
it. Even if it was,
why did they they didn't need to kidnap random people. That's like terrorist shit. Why are they kidnapping random unaffiliated sailors? How are you defending that?
You know what's terrorist?
You're defending them kidnapping
these
unrelated foreign sailors?
Israel fucking blowing up a humanitarian aid flotilla.
When did I defend that?
1,002. No, I'm not saying you're defending that. I'm just explaining to you what actual terrorism looks like.
Well, you are defending terrorism,
as of this conversation taking place,
and you've done it many times during this conversation.
Literally drone striked a fucking humanitarian aid ship that was headed for Gaza off the coastline of Malta. That's real fucking terrorism. What the Houthis are doing, on the other hand, is resistance. And it's not only moral, but it's just and
very good. You're right. You're so righteous.
Is served,
do you think that the Filipino hostages who are held there for a year agree that that was an awesome, that was an awesome act of resistance?
Probably not. Can you explain to me what you would do? What would you do?
I think, well, first of all, I think that like there's something to be said for stopping the cargo in that strait, but they're doing it insanely fucking stupid. They're stopping unaffiliated ships and they're kidnapping unaffiliated people. How is that good?
Damn, dude.
They're doing
it's not
it
unaffiliated
bad.
ship, by the way. But even then,
you won't explain how it's affiliated. You said it's owned by an Israeli conglomerate. That is an outright lie. Hold on, you're doing disinformation right now. It was not owned by an Israeli conglomerate. You said that. Yes, it was a lie. Galaxy Leader is a vehicle carrier that was owned by a British company, operated by a company connected. It was connected. It wasn't even, he didn't even own it. It was connected to an Israeli businessman. It was co-owned by a business that this Israeli guy was involved in.
Co-owned by Abraham Ongar.
So what? You know his name.
What do you mean? It's co-owned by an Israeli. What are we talking about?
No, it's co-owned by a company that has an Israeli dude affiliated with it.
Well, you asked me how it's connected.
It's owned by a British company.
You asked me how it's connected. I'm telling you how it's connected.
Well,
and
you're
now
lying.
You don't like that connection.
No, you're lying. That's what I don't like.
I'm not lying. The ship info is readily available, Ethan.
Yeah, I agree. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter anyway. The problem for me, really,
it doesn't matter. Okay, that's point number 5 that you also presented falsely on your context puke.
The problem is more the kidnapped sailors. I just don't understand you can justify kidnapping a bunch of unaffiliated sailors.
I don't, Ethan.
You are.
Ethan,
you go. Have you ever heard of deterrent?
Yeah. Walk with me through this carefully.
Yeah, please explain to me how it's justifiable to kidnap 15 sailors.
Ethan, what would you do? You have a better way to do it, I think. We're going to figure it out.
Well, like I said, you can do it without kidnapping unaffiliated.
During the Holocaust,
holding them for a year.
There were militancy, resistance, okay, that cut off supply lines, okay? Supply lines for the Nazis, or even sometimes supply lines that actually impacted the civilians, okay? Impact the civilians. Do you feel like that kind of resistance was unwarranted?
It's completely irrelevant. Why did they hold them for a year?
I don't know.
Okay, because they're terrorists.
What? Because they're terrorists?
Oh, what? Yeah, they're terrorists. They kidnap innocent civilians.
Are they? So the people
Filipino guys?
The people that are resisting against the Israeli genocide that you call a genocide
sailors have to do with
are
that?
actually terrorists because you don't agree with their
kidnapping innocents?
fucking methods. But you have no way, you have
Kidnapping
no alternative.
innocents.
You have no alternative. You call
That's
it a
not
genocide.
true. I
They're
said just
supposed
don't
to sit
kidnap
around.
innocent people.
Nothing else.
It's easy. Just don't kidnap innocent people. They could have done that, right? They could have taken the boat. They could have commandeered the boat and not kidnapped people, right?
Damn.
Oh, is that possible?
Fair. Do you think that warrants the standard of saying that one of the only groups that is doing militancy against and resisting against Israel's genocide, which they stopped, by the way. They literally stopped when Israel actually followed through on a ceasefire. If they were just, you know, erroneously and randomly fucking trying to claim ships because they're pirates, they want to live the pirate life, then obviously they wouldn't have stopped doing that, don't you think? And they only started their blockade after Israel started starving Gaza again, and then also turned around.
What does that have to do with innocent sailors?
Ethan, I don't think you want to go down this route.
I'm ready. What do you mean?
People is terrorism. Is Israel terrorist? Is the IDF terrorist?
I mean, you could characterize
Is the
it that
IDF
way.
terrorist?
I mean, it's an army, so it's a different thing. It's
Why is it a different thing? You think the Ansar Allah movement doesn't have a standing army? They have an army.
The Houthis are to like a hostile takeover of like a portion of Yemen. They're at odds with the government. It's different. They also own slaves, by the way.
We're going to talk about the Ansar Allah movement's history.
But I'll say, yeah, Israel, the IDF is terrorist. Yes, the IDF's terrorism.
Hold on. Talk to me about how the Ansar Allah movement actually came to power without getting any notes from your Discord or anything like that. Explain to me the process in which Ansar Allah actually came to power. What?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know?
I do not know.
That's really
you should try
interesting
saying
because
that sometimes.
in your video, you also used a lot of Saudi outlets to be like, these guys are actually doing slavery.
Bro.
And it turned out that actually the
Saudi
videos
outlets
that you used did not even suggest that it was Ansar Allah that was doing slavery in the fucking poorest country on the planet. Okay?
The
Literally
Houthis
the poorest
have
country
slaves.
on the planet.
That's not
they
even
weren't the ones who were doing the slavery according to your own fucking video, but you still used it. And you used
the Houthis have
Saudi
slaves,
propaganda
undisputed.
papers that at a time when Saudi
I
Arabia
just don't
was
understand why
doing
you're
a
defending
fucking
the
genocide.
Houthis for having slaves and kidnapping innocents. It's just so unnecessary.
What are you talking about,
Just
dude?
acknowledge that that they do terrible
Saudi-backed
shit.
government was the one that was actually doing slavery.
No, well, if they did, then the Houthis also have slaves. That's just a statement.
No,
of
the
fact.
Houthis don't have shit. Okay, it's
They don't have shit. They don't have slaves. They don't even have slaves. They don't even have food. Like, what are you talking about?
That's not the point I'm making. They are the poorest country on the planet that just came out of a man-made
Yeah, and how's that blockade, by the way, helping the country?
And the
How is
UAE.
the blockade helping the famine in Yemen? How's the blockade helping the famine in Yemen?
There is, as far as I understand, there's no longer a famine in Yemen. I'm talking about before, because you talked about how you were a regional expert.
What is blockading it doing for the poorest country on earth?
And their violent takeover of Yemen. So I was like trying to figure out what you know about this. Maybe you know something that I don't know. So I was trying to pick your brain a little bit on this
so explain
issue,
to me
but
why it
seems like
matters.
you don't know shit.
Sure, I don't know about this specific thing. Tell me why it matters.
Why it matters? What their blockade?
Yeah. Clearly,
their blockade is awesome.
No, why it matters how they came to power.
Oh, because you used Saudi newspapers in the time when Saudi Arabia, according to Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, all fucking NGOs, was doing a Western-backed blockade that was killing hundreds of thousands of people, and the headlines that you used in your context puke were from Al Arabiya and numerous other outlets that had their own personal investment in vilifying the Ansar Allah movement. Having said that, of course, I also think that there are plenty to criticize about the Ansar Allah movement. I don't agree with everything that they're fucking doing, as I've said time and time again, like their banner, right? Their banner says "Curse the Jews," which you also presented in your video, except remember when you talked about Norm Finkelstein and how Norm Finkelstein doesn't agree with "From the River to the Sea, Palestine will be free"?
You agree with kidnapping civilians.
Can we play the clip of Norm Finkelstein talking about the "Curse the Jews" and what he thinks about that? Let's do that. Let's pull up the clip of Norm Finkelstein's thoughts on
how's that
actions
relevant?
And the blockade against the Israelis. You
How
used him as
relevant?
a primary source earlier because you thought, he's a reputable guy, which I think I agree.
He said something that I've said that I've been criticized for. What does that have to
Dan,
do with
can you play
every
this
other
clip?
take he's taken? It
Can you
doesn't
play
mean
this
that I
clip?
support that like we're aligned with every other take in the world.
Dan, can you play this clip real quick? Sorry, this is 50 seconds.
It's irrelevant.
I passed it along.
It's totally irrelevant.
What do you mean it's irrelevant?
Because who gives a fuck what he said about it?
Wait, what do you mean? You
want to talk about
his perspective on "From the River to the Sea" to imply that he agrees with you. I want to see if you agree with him on this. Just play it.
All right, I'll play it.
Thank you.
So here, I'm going to play it, okay? And then when this is done, let's move on to something I know we both want to talk about. You claimed, I'm going to play it. I just want to set this up. You claimed that the worst thing I said in the context puke is that I wrongfully portrayed Jewish people fleeing from their countries, and I denied the Nakba somehow, which is crazy. So let's talk about that after this clip.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
And
by the way,
you're not going to scare us. You're not going to.
I'll just say up front, we can end on that point.
Oh, I can keep going all day if you want
I'm sure
to.
you can. Yeah, I know. I know you go to bed tonight in a cool race car bed, but I have family.
Okay, no, that's fine. Why are you thinking about what my bedroom looks like? It's kind of weird, man.
Yeah. No, you're right. You fucking badass fucking sports car bed. It's
very odd.
There it is.
As long as the people in Gaza are subjected to a genocide, we won't stop. Do you know all the praise that's given to the Danish government because it helped evacuate Jews during World War II? But is there a case where a totally distant people did that for the people of Gaza? If I were to give a Nobel Peace Prize, I would divide it between three. South African delegation. Number two, those doctors who volunteered to go to Gaza, the Doctors Without Borders and others. One doctor, he was Palestinian. Why don't you leave? Because he had the option. He was able to go. He said, I didn't go to medical school for 30 years to abandon my people. He was killed. And the third, it's the Houthis. If genocide is the crime of crimes, the Houthis are the hero of heroes.
Yeah, I mean, the first two examples, I definitely agree. I think it's psychotic to give the Houthis a peace prize. That's,
why?
Yeah, that's nuts.
Why?
Because what the fuck have they done for peace other than kidnap innocent civilians? What have they done for their own populace? This is, as you said, the poorest country on earth. What are they doing for peace?
The Houthis have created.
What does this have to do with the river to the sea?
Material consequences for Israel as it has implemented a genocide.
All right, let's give them a peace prize. Whatever, I don't care. Let's give them a peace prize.
It.
Yes, absolutely, without a doubt.
Wait, also, it's still
don't ask the unaffiliated prisoners who were held for a year, though.
No, I don't. I think you're missing the broader point here. You're missing the forest for the trees. Here, I'll give you a great example of this, by the way, because you spent a lot of time being like, the Houthis are bad. They're homophobic. I'm like, I'm sure they are. Holy shit. Also, Dan, it keeps switching back to me on my end. Sorry.
Let's talk about the issue of the Nakba and stuff.
Hold on. I know you keep saying, "Oh, it doesn't matter. This is boring." Whenever you come across a point
no,
that
it's
you
irrelevant,
have to admit is
bro.
wrong,
And you just talk. It makes the video unwatchable.
You said the Houthis are barbaric. They're homophobic. They hate women.
Homophobic.
All this shit, right? And I'm sure a lot of that is correct. Of course it is. It is the fucking poorest nation on the planet, and all it is known is fucking death and destruction. This doesn't justify having that sort of opinion, of course, but it certainly understands, don't you think? Certainly is part of the point, part of the problem. And the best possible way to probably get them to have a civil rights movement to give gays rights would probably be to stop fucking bombing them, as Joe Biden did, and as Donald Trump has done.
Yeah, that wasn't my chief criticism. Man, again, my criticism is that they are kidnapping civilians.
Yeah, I know. You don't like their methods, but you have no alternative method. Now,
I said just do it without kidnapping civilians, dude. It's not rocket science.
You said the IDF is maybe not a terror organization. But the IDF is a terror organization.
I didn't say that. Wrong. Again, a liar.
So you think the IDF is a terror organization?
I said yes.
You believe the IDF is a terror?
I think it's fair to characterize them that way.
Okay. Your wife was in the IDF.
Yeah.
Do you believe your wife is a terrorist?
Of course not.
You have considered a 19-year-old Yemeni TikToker who is not even a part of the Al-Houthi family with no Houthi affiliation, but simply a person that says he stands with the Houthis, and I do too, a terrorist over and over again because he has a gun in the second highest gun ownership density per capita. And because he responded to a fucking Instagram comment saying he's a soldier, a dude who doesn't even speak English, you kept claiming that he was a terrorist over and over again. His name is Rashid al-Haddad. He is not even a fucking Zaidi Shia. He's not even a part of the Houthi family. Because if he was a part of the Houthi family, his last name would be al-Houthi, not al-Haddad. Okay? This person, you looked at a 19-year-old fucking teenager who's a TikToker in the poorest country on the planet, who's only known death and destruction, and spent countless fucking hours looking through whatever his social media was to be like, this guy is bad. This guy is fucked up.
Let's look at it.
Of course he's fucked up. He lives in goddamn Yemen. Are you
Do you
stupid?
know what the
He doesn't live in
bigotry of low
fucking Bel Air
expectations
like you,
is?
dumbass.
Do you know what the bigotry of low expectations is? You're saying because he's poor, he hates Jewish people? Let's watch.
No,
Ready to-
it's not
Let me
because he's
show you
poor that he hates Jewish people. It's because he lives in fucking Yemen. And in that part of the world, the only thing that people see is the dangerous conflation of Zionism and Judaism. Because
I'm sure the
fighter
Yemenis-
jets that blow up their fucking schools have a Star of David next to them. And when the Palestinians are kidnapped, when they're fucking forced to go through military trial detention, they get fucking Stars of David carved on their heads. Israel is the one that dangerously and falsely claims to be the nation state of Jews. Israel is the one that makes everybody think that this action, all of the action, the genocide that you called a genocide, is actually being done at the behest of Jews. So
That's
of
not
course,
true.
for everyone in that side
Israel
of the
doesn't
fucking
claim
world,
they're doing it
when they
on
say
behest
Jew,
of Jews.
it's interchangeable with Israel. Many of these people, including Refat
Do you think he's like
al-Ra'ad-
Anne Frank?
What?
Do you think he's like Anne Frank?
Oh, of course, absolutely. He has withstood
Anne- did
genocide.
Anne-
He has withstood genocide by the Saudi government.
the only-
Of course I do. I think that talking to, but my point that I
Anne
was
Frank.
fucking presenting,
Anne Frank is famous for being a pacifist and seeing the good in people despite a fucking Holocaust that took every member of her family but her dad. That's why she's inspiring. This guy went on Twitter and said,
would you
fuck
think
Jewish
Anne Frank
people.
would be less inspiring if she somehow was able to get out of the
If she was like,
the
I wanna
place that she
kill
was hiding
Germans
in
and hang
took
them?
up
Yeah.
arms against the Nazis? Would you say that Anne Frank is bad for that? Say Anne Frank is bad for that, Ethan.
For
Say
something
Anne
that
Frank
didn't
would be
happen?
bad if she took up arms against the violent Nazi occupation. Say it.
It wouldn't be the same, for sure.
Oh, it wouldn't be the same. Why wouldn't it be?
She's famous for being a pacifist and seeing the good in people despite living through a Holocaust. You understand that? That's
If
not what.
Anne
Let
Frank-
me show you. Let me show
Do
you.
you think that if Anne Frank
Israel isn't.
Do you think that if Anne Frank took up arms against the Nazi occupation, you would call
Israel
her
isn't
a bad
occupying
person?
Yemen anyway.
What?
Israel's not occupying Yemen.
Israel isn't. But for every single country in this region, American imperialism is all they
You say
have
the Saudis.
known.
You said this. Why don't they say death to Saudi Arabia on their flag? Why is it Jews? Why
Because
is
they're
it damn
directly
the Jews?
fighting Saudi Arabia. What are you
Oh,
talking
but I thought,
about?
oh, you see the Star of David. Of course they hate Jews. What about their? Why does their flag say death to fucking Israel and damn the Jews?
Their flag says death to America, death to Israel, a curse upon the Jews, which
Damn
I
the
have
Jews,
said time
curse
and time
upon the
again
Jews.
is kind of gauche, not acceptable, not appropriate
That's
by
nice.
Western standards. But if you listen to
Why
Norm
does it
has
say
a
Saudi
clip on
Arabia?
that too. Norm has a clip on that too. Do you want to see? Do you want to see
No,
it?
and I just let me show you this
Do you
because
want to
you've
hear
been going
Norm
on and on.
Finkelstein
Let-
explain that?
No, I want to show you this. Okay, you've been talking and talking and talking and talking. Very good. Let's watch this.
Do you condemn
He
the
said-
Warsaw Ghetto Uprising,
Hasan,
Ethan?
you gotta stop.
Do you condemn the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising?
I'm gonna play this video. Okay. He says, "Ready for sacrifice." Maybe I read it.
Sacrifice and eager for martyrdom. Maybe he's talking about football. Here he is singing a song with the words, "Do you threaten us with what we are waiting for, son of a Jew?" Meaning of Houthi is a title, and it's not something to fear, but for the Jews. They are very afraid of this title. The execution we will carry out on all Zionists, with the lovely depiction of a man impaled through his asshole and out of his mouth with a pike, or how Hasan likes to say it, a pike for a cut.
Pause it.
Okay, why would he
Are you done?
retweet this article called
No.
Houthis use social media to boost global prominence and support?
Okay.
Israel falls. Wait for the new operation in Tel Aviv, the Jaffa drone, which no Israeli defense can stop. The ships we bombed and sank. I know the red arrow is supposed to be a cool military Hamas thing. This is a butt plug. Just saying. To every Zionist, I will put this into your stomach. And let me state the obvious. Jew and Zionist is clearly interchangeable to this guy. Okay,
It is.
but hating Jews doesn't make you a Houthi. Are you a soldier? Yes. That seems pretty definitive.
Why did he say yes to "Are you a soldier"?
Bro, he doesn't even fucking speak English. You're like, oh, he's a soldier.
Oh.
Wait, even if he is, I'm going to ask you a question very clearly and very deliberately. If Anne Frank
Just like
posted-
Anne Frank,
if
by
Anne
the
Frank
way.
if we had the internet during the time of the Holocaust and Anne Frank posted about this is what we're going to do to the Nazis, would your analysis
it
of
would
Anne Frank change
Yes,
even
of
a little bit,
course.
even an iota?
Yes, of course it would, because she's famous for being a pacifist, not tweeting out "Death to all Zionists." She's famous for seeing the good in people, not fucking
Okay, well,
tweeting out that we want to nuke Israel. What do you mean?
I would not give a fuck. I would be loud and proud going, hey, that's what she said. That's what we're going to do to the Nazis. Fuck yeah, girl.
So after after watching that compilation, you still agree that he's just like Anne Frank?
Did you not hear what I asked you?
I'm just summarizing.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Anne Frank died before she could resist. But if she did, I would never hold that against her.
She was fucking killed in a concentration camp, you psychopath.
But if she did,
she was exterminated with her whole fucking family. Her dad's the only one that survived and recovered her journal. Are you fucking mad?
Ethan, right? Would you hold that against her? Would you hold that against Anne Frank?
I wouldn't hold it against her, but she wouldn't be the same historical figure that said, despite my family being killed in concentration camp and everyone being murdered, I'm still a pacifist that sees the good in people. What the fuck what's so confusing about that? Not kill Zionists, not nuke Israel, not a pike through Zionist assholes.
I can't believe we're once again discussing the posts of a dude in Yemen who is
you really like to do
years
that.
Old. Okay.
Well, you said he's not a Houthi. I mean, you went on and on and on and on about how he's just some random fucking innocent kid that you platformed and glazed the fuck up, by the way. Which is, by the way, just terrible journalism. Like you have KFC in Yemen? Is that the fucking best question you have for someone who's apparently surviving a genocide in Yemen, who's been with the crew of kidnapped hostages, who has apparently partied with the captains? You say, is there KFC in Yemen? Are you fucking kidding me?
All right. Here's some clips that you haven't
Hold on.
shown.
Besides being wrong, it's insanely incompetent.
We're going clip for clip. We're going clip for clip. Can you please play this? It's from my subreddit.
Sure.
Here.
Give me a sec. Dan's got to pass it to me. Okay. After this, please, we got to move on to the Nakba thing.
Yeah. Every single victim of Israeli or American violence has to be a pacifist. That is your perspective.
Do you want me to watch this? I mean, what the fuck, bro? It's 4 minutes, so I'm not going to watch the whole thing, but I'll watch like a minute or 2 minutes. Okay?
طبعا جاتني اسئله كثيره ماذا اذا اليهود قرروا ان يعودوا الى اليمن يعني بنسمح لهم ولا لا ولا طبعا طبيعي يعني احنا اليمنيين بنمد ايدينا للسلام يعني اليمن مسموحه لاي شخص يعيش فيها.
This is like shot like by a fucking like propagandist. What are you talking about? Like he's all fucking dolled up. He's got makeup on. The lighting is perfect. Yeah, he's like, guys, please, we love the Jews. Give me a break. Our problem is not with the Jews, guys.
Buddy, dunking on a fucking 19-year-old living in Yemen. You pick and choose what you think. You pick and choose what you think is appropriate to show.
Well, what do you think about all the shit I showed you? Which do you think he believes, this or that?
I think he believes both.
Oh.
This is not at
odds. He both believes the Jews are our friends and also we need to murder them all.
Okay.
He believes that Jews are our friends and we need to murder them all. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
You conflate.
No, he said Jews. He in the tweets said this is what we're going to do to Jews.
Perspective. For them, when they talk about Israel, they sometimes reflect it as
and that's
Jews.
The Jews' fault,
but
right?
Listen to me.
And you're blaming the victim.
Because in that interview that I conducted with him, I asked him about how he felt about Jews, anti-Zionist Jews specifically, and he said he loves them because
that is such a lie. You're such a liar.
You don't know this person, Ethan.
I watched it. That's not what he said, though. He said if they support Palestine, then I like them. He didn't. You're lying. You're just lying. You're lying about what he said. You're lying. I've seen that interview. You're lying.
Wait, what do you mean?
He didn't say that. He said if they support Palestine, then that's good.
What?
What? That's what he said.
Okay.
It's fucking materially way different than I love Jews. What the fuck you said?
No, you didn't hear you just repeated what I said.
Go ahead. What'd you say?
I said love, but I think he didn't. I guess he didn't say love.
What did he say? Hold on, Hasan. What did you say he said?
I said that I don't care what anyone's background is. I love them. Jew, Christian, Muslim, doesn't matter. If you are against Israel, I love them. That's what I said. He has no problem with Jews who are pro-Palestine.
That's nowhere close to what you said.
Dude.
Well, you realize you're wrong. You got caught in a lie, so you're revising. It's fine.
What?
All right, let's move on to the Nakba thing.
Dude, I don't care. Dude,
we got to move on, bro.
Ethan, listen to my words very carefully. If he had told me, okay, I hate all Jews unconditionally, I am an anti-Semitic person.
He did tweet that.
Okay,
he did tweet
the
stuff like that.
The conversation would go very differently. But even then, I probably wouldn't be as vicious as you assume.
He literally said that on social media continually.
Because I understand the material conditions and what plays a role in people's recognition of the world, what their
Nobody needs to
upbringing
fear
looks
us but
like.
Jews, he said. I'm going to shove my gun and kill Jews.
What? No, he didn't say that.
I'll play it again. You want me to play it again?
Oh, God. Okay, dude. You just play the fucking clip then. God damn it. Just play the clip.
Okay.
He said Zionist, but play the fucking clip, Ethan.
Yeah. I'll play it.
Play the clip I sent you without fucking complaining. He's
No,
always
why-
too dolled up.
Play this for a minute and then we'll move on.
All right, play it.
فوق رؤوسنا وما في عندنا أي مشكلة وهذه رسالتي لليهود أتمنى أن توصل وطبعا وأشكر
This is the most pathetic terrorist propaganda bullshit I have ever seen. And the fact that you actually think this is credible is so hilarious
Dude,
to me.
you-
Wow.
look,
Let's
man,
keep it going.
look.
No, I love this. This is great. Let him.
All right, just keep playing it. Keep playing it.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm trying. I don't know where the audio went. Oh, why? Was it... Sorry, hold on. We're having...
I pulled it back up.
Taylor Lorenz tweeted, "What's so crazy is that we tried to nab an interview with Rashad, the Yemeni teen who went viral for WAPO, before Hassan the Hun got the scoop. Ethan continues to chastise Hassan for legitimate journalism and an interview that half the
What was
MSM was
legitimate
chasing."
journal? Well, first of all, Taylor Lorenz is a fucking hack loser who's obsessed with you, okay? Of course she would say that. She, by the way, what was the legitimate... Name one question you asked him that represents legitimate journalism.
Okay, great.
One question.
Great question. What do you feel about anti-Zionist Jews leading many of the anti-Israel protests in the United States of America?
That's your most important journalistic question, which he basically said.
No, you
they're
asked
cool.
me
If
one.
they're-
I gave you one.
I don't think that, I mean, I find that to be insignificant, especially considering his answer. No follow-up questions? Why don't you ask him if why don't you ask a follow-up question like,
Ethan,
do you not care if they're Zionist Jews? That they're Israeli Jews that support you?
I don't give a fuck if he cares if there's Zionist Jews or not.
What about why? Do you think? Hey,
What?
what was the hard-hitting part about asking if he likes One Piece? Was that hard-hitting journalism?
No, it was called humanizing.
That was called cringe as fuck, glazing,
Yeah,
pathetic.
because you don't like when a fucking brown person gets a little bit of airspace and they look
that
like
right?
a human being.
So
and
you're
not a
resorting to
fucking
calling me
barbaric
racist now.
monster.
By the way, this
Because
dude's
you're
white as fuck. What are you
Islamophobic,
talking
Ethan.
about? This dude's whiter than I am. What the
All
fuck
right,
are you
let's get
talking
back to
about,
the
dipshit?
IDF. So
Hold
you
on,
said
you
the
accuse
IDF
me of
could
being
be
racist. Are you
declared a
talking about this
terrorist
guy?
organization,
Are you
and
talking
your
about
wife
this
is a part of
guy?
the IDF. Do you think it's
You're
appropriate
right,
to call
dude.
your wife a terrorist?
I think you do. No, I don't.
You don't think it's appropriate? Okay.
No.
You have stated time and time again that you believe, to show how pro-Palestine you are, that you believe settlers are valid military targets. Who do
Right.
you think is protecting the settlers who you claim are valid
IDF
military
is
targets?
protecting them, and it's
in
fucking
the
insane.
process,
Yeah,
in
it's
the
horrible.
process of their
Was
pogroms
my wife
that
out
they're
there
doing.
protecting? Sorry, was Ela out there protecting settlers?
No, she was doing a night raid, as a matter of fact, and I didn't know any of this until recently. For the record, until a couple
She was a
months ago.
fucking
She was
You're
out
gonna
there
do the Raider of
doing night
Ramallah
raids.
snark
Do you
bullshit.
think-
Go on, yeah. Your community doesn't harass anyone. She was 18 years old. She went on a ride along to Ramallah for some kind of fucking mission. She stayed in the car, and then they went back, and that's all that happened. She's
described
18 years
the
old, bro. She's a
process of taking
secretary.
someone hostage. You called him it, by the way. That person was a Palestinian living in his own, living in his
Can they-
own fucking home. And your wife went
Can they
on
not
a
commit
raid
crimes?
to Ramallah, which you have called a terror city.
Yeah,
So
that was
there's
an old
inconsistency
clip.
here.
I don't think
Is your
Ramallah's
wife
a
a
terror
valid
city.
military target in that process? Because you've said that settlers are valid military targets. Do you think your wife is a valid military target? Do you think your wife is a terrorist?
She's not a West
Ethan?
Bank settler. She's not a West Bank settler.
But she's in the West Bank.
Bad
Where's
Empanada
Ramallah,
thinks she
Ethan?
is. Bad Empanada thinks she's valid. Your friends over at Second Thought think that she's a valid target.
You think she's
Do you?
a valid military target? That's
Do
my
you think
point,
she's a
because
valid
there's
military target?
inconsistencies here.
Do you think she's a valid military target?
I do not, as a matter of fact. I
Wow,
don't.
great.
Okay.
All right, can we please move on to this
the
Nafta
listen
thing?
to me. Listen
Hasan,
to me.
bro, you're making this
Listen
unwatchable.
to me. Listen to me. Okay.
We got to move on.
How does this make sense in your mind? You say Israel is doing genocide. She has participated in the kidnapping of a Palestinian in the West Bank. You say
You don't know
hate
who
the
was
West
kidnapped
Bank.
and for
You
what
say
reason.
you
We
hate
don't-
the settlers.
Well, we don't know who is.
protects the
First of all,
settlers, Ethan. Your wife did.
kidnapped. They arrested somebody. We don't know what happened or what they did.
So
what if he fucking stabbed civilians? Doesn't that happen? I'm sorry. Do Palestinian terrorists never stab and blow up civilians?
They're placed under military detention. They are not actually placed. They do not go through a civil court process.
Do Palestinian terrorists ever commit violence on civilians that would warrant them being arrested?
They are not in the West Bank.
You don't know anything about this person or this raid.
In Ramallah, in Palestinian territory, your wife was an illegal occupier of a terrorist organization, also known as the Israeli Occupying Force, Ethan. Now, I know people that have also served in the Israeli Occupying Force, as a matter of fact. I've relied on breaking the silence.
By the way, her name is Hila. I don't know if you keep doing your wife. Why do you do that? Why do you keep referring to her as my wife? It's bizarre.
Okay, Hila, whatever, who cares?
Well, it just belies some really bizarre thing.
Stop hyper-focusing
It's not random at all. It says a lot.
Listen to my words. Listen to my words.
Please.
I have no issue with someone as long as they have recognized their mistakes, as long as they recognize that that was wrong. What I take issue with is consistently defending Israel. You have also participated in the defense of Israel. It makes no sense. You're inconsistent. You say it's a genocide, but people can't resist militarily. You say it's a genocide, but all of the people who are outspoken are vile anti-Semites.
Hila was
doing supposed to be able to resist against this genocide? Do you actually think it's a genocide?
Hila was doing mandatory military service. What should she have done?
There's numerous options. One, religious exemption. Two, refusing to serve. But even then, I don't have a problem with her being socially conditioned into thinking that this is appropriate. I have a problem with what she's saying now. I have a problem with how she reflects on that and doesn't realize that that was an unjustifiable thing to do. Those are real human beings.
You can talk to her or debate about it. I don't know what you're even referring to. Okay.
What?
I don't even know what the fuck you're referring to. You're just calling my wife a terrorist. Like, give me a break, dude. She did mandatory
on your
Let me ask you a question.
She's talked
Hassan,
on your podcast
please, you gotta let me talk.
How she went on a raid. She was
you
bored.
Have to let me talk.
The
fact that you're just talking over me
it was an adventure
and being louder does not mean you're right. I promise.
What?
Being louder and talking more does not mean you're right.
Volunteered.
Okay? It's good to listen to what I have to say.
Okay.
She's part of mandatory conscription.
Did Hila not volunteer? Did Hila not volunteer to go to the West Bank on a raid because she was bored? In Ramallah.
Yeah, she's 18. It's understandable.
Okay.
We don't know what that guy did, though. We don't know what the raid was for.
He could have been a vicious terrorist
monster.
What if he killed
people? Yeah. What if he killed people? Of course. If he killed people, of course he would be worthy of being arrested.
Is Ramallah a part of Israeli territory?
I mean, it's complicated, right? It's under occupation. No, I don't think so, but it's under occupation, right?
Okay. So why was your wife in Ramallah?
Maybe are getting a terrorist that killed civilians. She sat in a car.
It's not complicated, Ethan.
She sat in a car and didn't even leave it and never did it again.
Your wife participated in an illegal raid according to international human rights. That is the reality. Now, I understand.
Are you upset if this person killed like a child? Would you be upset if this person they arrested like stabbed people? Like you don't know what you're talking about.
If she were to talk about how fucked up
that was. Okay, fine. My wife's a terrorist, bro. What the fuck? It's so boring.
No, stop. Listen to my words. If she were to talk about
my
how
wife is a
fucked up
terrorist.
that is, as many former IDF vets have on breaking the silence, if she talked about the night raid that she participated in the same way that
just
former
like Frogan
IDF
says,
vets
I don't hate only the ones that regret it.
I would have no issue with her.
Do you hope she gets PTSD too?
Can change.
Okay? I don't condone the raid, but I mean, see, neither of us have any information about like what actually happened. You know what I mean?
There is no. You don't understand. She is illegally there. She is not supposed to be there.
She's a terrorist.
It does not matter. Her and her entire brigade was not supposed to be there. That is an act of terror.
I don't think she knew what they were doing.
Fact, what she participated
I don't think she knew what they were doing or where they were going.
What she participated in is
I don't think she knew where they were going or what they were doing.
What she participated in is called
she's a terrorist,
raid.
Bro. Please, we got to move on.
The reason why the Israeli occupying force, participates in these night raids in the West Bank,
you're making this unwatchable.
A constant feeling of terror.
Talking more does not make you right. Okay.
The reason why the Israeli occupying force participates in night raids is to create a constant sense of terror upon the Palestinians.
We don't condone it. She was 19. She was doing military conscription. She didn't know where they were going or what they were doing.
Listen to me.
Thank you. I'm listening, but you just keep repeating yourself. This is what you do. You gotta move on. I want to have
the reason why I know that. You want to know why I know that?
You gotta stop.
Do
Do you
wanna know
want
why
this
I
to be
know that?
unwatchable? Is that what you want?
What?
Do you want this to be unwatchable?
The reason why I know that, Ethan, is because
I'm
of
take that as a
Breaking the
yes.
Silence veterans who have come out and spoken out against this practice. That's why I know that.
Hasan, you say that Ela could have gone to jail and done a conscientious objection instead of joining the army. Why do you pay taxes?
What?
Why do you pay taxes to
This
the United
is your
States
big
government?
argument, Ethan?
Answer
that
the
I pay
question.
taxes and I'm morally culpable? I know. That's why I try to fucking fight against
Why don't
this
you go to
goddamn government
jail?
doing this shit
Well,
every
why don't you
day.
stand up for your? Hold on. Why don't you stand up for your principles and go to jail for it?
Because it would not actually stop, okay? It would not actually stop. The reason why I'm saying,
What wouldn't stop?
I don't take issue with Gila's fucking actions then, as long as, just like you said, she was just 19 years old. I take issue with the fact that she still defends it on principle. She says the
What did she
Israeli
say?
occupying force is not a terror organization. You have a disagreement with him. Or
Well,
her, sorry.
I think I can see it from her perspective too, which is like, you know, the problem with you
Yeah.
is that
But
everything's black and
you can't see
white.
it from Rashid al-Haddad's perspective, and you
Yeah,
know
he's a
for a
fucking
fucking fact
terrorist
that your
who says he
audience
wants to
also
kill
doesn't see
Jews,
it, and
that you
that's
said
why
it's like
you can
Anne
fucking
Frank.
constantly claim that he is a terrorist, whereas
Oh
your
my
wife,
God, bro!
well, it's
Please,
complicated.
I want this to be watchable. Okay, let's move on, please.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. You made your
Got
point.
it.
You made your point. Okay. So specifically, you said this, which is you said in the context puke. You said this was the worst thing I did. So let me play it, okay, and then we can discuss.
More Jews displaced than Palestinians.
Let me go back
in
just 'cause-
1948 countries
just to give the
that
whole context.
expelled them in massive amounts following the 1948 war. In fact, there was more Jews displaced than Palestinians.
This was one of the
during
worst pieces of misinformation I've seen in the fucking context puke. For the record, it was crazy.
Nakba.
This specific. So Mike, again, nicely done. Let this guy hold your hand and formulate your opinions, but he's not here to help you, okay? So you tell me what was wrong with what was misinformation about saying that 900,000 Jews were displaced?
You make a comparison between Planned Dalit, which is a planned ethnic cleansing campaign, to one, horrify Palestinians inside of villages that had actually no arms whatsoever because they had specific peace agreements that they've done with Jewish villages.
What was
by
the
killing them
exaggeration?
and including
No.
by,
This isn't a
by
comparison
massacring them,
question.
and then
What was the
and
fucking
then
hell, bro?
letting
You are
survivors
incapable
tell the
of
tale.
answering anything.
You asked me a question and I can't even fucking
No,
answer
you're
it. What are we
not
doing?
answering it. You're not. You're just
I
going
am.
on and on.
I am answering it. Ethan.
What was the exaggeration?
Ethan, sit the fuck
About
down and
the
listen to the
historical
history
fact
lesson.
of
Okay, you're gonna learn a little bit right now. Okay, Deir Yassin is Tantura. These are two very famous massacres that took place. The brigades, the militant brigades, the Zionist brigades that then formed the IDF, including some that personally called themselves terrorists, by the way, Lihi and Irgun, went in and did horrifying mass rape, kidnappings, throwing people in ovens. And then the survivors
does that have
left
to do with that?
tell the tale. In that process, these brigades would go to each individual city and forcibly ethnically cleanse 750,000 Palestinians. This is known as the Nakba.
What the fuck does that have to do with the Jewish refugees? Answer that question. I know what the Nakba is. I don't deny it.
Do you think that that is even remotely comparable to Jewish people
How is it
leaving
not?
sometimes voluntarily and sometimes
Wow.
because their governments had made deals with
How many left
either
voluntarily?
Israel or France?
How many of the 900,000 left voluntarily?
I don't know the exact number of how many left voluntarily. Do
Take a
you?
guess. Take a guess.
I would suspect that a big chunk of them, you're going to say, did not leave voluntarily, but that is not the case. Most of
you're
them left
lying and
voluntarily.
you're fucking dead wrong. You brought up the fact that I talked about what happened in Iraq. So let me give you a timeline of what happened in Iraq. 1932, they gain independence. 1934, Hebrew is banned. Jews are fired from government positions. 1938, Zionist activity is outlawed. Crimes as trivial as possessing a biblical map of the Holy Land will send you to jail. The Farhud program, inspired by neo-Nazis, Rashid al-Khalini killed 180 Jews. Hundreds were injured. Widespread looting, property damage. 1947, Jews were banned from immigrating because they didn't want them to go strengthen the state of Israel, and they wanted to hold them prisoners against Israel and the West. In 1948, the war begins. Jewish banks were forbidden to transact with foreign countries. Jews were arrested for Zionist activity, for economic crimes. They were fines that were paid to the Ministry of Defense. in 1949, a month after taking office, the
Can I ask
the
you a
British
question?
learned
Just
that
one
they were
question.
planning to expel the Jews from Iraq before they even left.
Did
Does
you-
this sound like volunteer?
did you-
Does this sound voluntary?
Okay,
Does that
here,
sound
I sent-
voluntary?
Dan, I sent you a clip. You can play.
No,
it.
no,
One of the
no.
most- One of
Does
the
it-
most important scholars on this issue
Oh my
is
God,
an Iraqi
please.
Jew by the name of Avi
Oh.
Shlaim.
Yeah, I love this. Let's listen to him.
Okay, let's listen to it.
Yeah.
Jews were convinced that Israel had a hand in uprooting them. After the 1948 war, there was mounting popular hostility towards the Jews in Iraq. 5 bombs exploded in Jewish sites. The series of bombs created a panic which led more and more Jews to register to leave the country. I met an elderly friend of my mother's, an Iraqi Jew called Yaakov Karkukli, who had been in the Zionist underground. One member of his group, Yosef Basri, a very, very intelligent Jewish lawyer, and his assistant, Shalom Saleh Shalom, were responsible for 3 out of the 5 bombs. Basri's controller was an Israeli intelligence officer.
And so
named Max
let's grant that what he's saying is true and that 3 of the 5 bombs were done by Zionists, right? How does that explain 150,000 people leaving the fucking country?
Why?
Thousands of years of civilization that have been there, 2,000 years, just picking up and leaving, almost virtually gone. How does that explain that?
Why is it that
A
the
few bombs?
Israeli government? Why is it the Israeli government benefited from creating instability and making it seem as though these countries were uninhabitable? And why do you think that, despite the fact that Iraq and numerous other countries have offered Israelis or Jews a right to return, why has
Because
that
they were
failed
being
on the
fucking-
Israeli front for numerous reasons? I know why.
Let me
but
tell you an
maybe
inconvenient
can
fact
arrive
for
at
you,
that
Hasan.
conclusion.
Let me tell you an
I
inconvenient
wonder
fact.
why that happened right as
Before
Israel
the
was
bombs
being
went off,
established.
Before the bombs went off, 100,000 of the 125 Jews were already registered to leave. Do you want to explain that?
Yes. Jews wanted to go to Israel, Ethan. They liked the idea
Okay,
of
great.
going
So
to
let me
Israel.
hear what Avi.
Israel.
Okay,
You
so you're
like Israel. What do you
Yeah,
mean?
you're a liar. You're a disgusting fucking propagandist liar. Here's what Avi Schleim actually
My
said.
research, I established
Scumbag.
that one bomb was lobbed, one hand grenade was lobbed by a young activist in the Istiklal party, which wanted to expel the Jews from Iraq and confiscate the properties. And another bomb was, another hand grenade was lobbed into the Masouda Shem Tov synagogue, and there 4 people were killed. And he was a criminal who had a grudge against the Jews, and it had nothing to do with the Mossad.
Did you hear that? The first 2 had nothing to do with the Mossad. But let's continue to listen to the respected scholar,
I
Avi
never said
Schleim,
that.
you
Wait,
fucking
hold on,
liar.
hold on. Ethan,
Nope, you listen
did I
to this
make a
fucking
claim
historian.
that the first
Yes,
2
you
were a
said
part
they
of the
left by
Mossad?
choice. They left because of Zionism. They left
They
because
did.
they
They
were
had a
being
place to go,
threatened.
and they wanted
Let's
to
hear
go
what
there.
your respected historian has to say, you liar.
That's right. Even
Listen.
if all this is true, the main reason for the exodus was not the bombs, it was persecution by the government. And I concede that. It's not part of my argument that the bombs were the main reason for the liquidation of this community. But my answer to my Zionist critics is, even if I knew for certain that not a single Iraqi Jew left Iraq to go to Israel because of the bombs, I would still think this is a real indictment of the state of Israel, because Israel was created to provide a safe haven for Jews, not to be harassing and threatening Jews in other countries.
By the way, he said, and I'll quote it for you, we did not leave Iraq because we were Zionists. We left because we were no longer safe. He wrote that in his book, 3 Worlds. Have you read that book?
No, I have not read 3 Worlds.
Okay, well, you're using a lot of source from it. It's a book that he wrote about
It's
his
not the only book
migration.
he wrote about this. But go on.
Have you read any of the other ones?
Yes.
Really? Which ones?
The book that I'm referencing is from the Iron Wall.
3 Worlds, okay? He writes about his time in
Memoirs
Iraq.
of an
He writes
Arab
about his
Jew.
time
It's the
in
newest
Israel.
book, I know.
He writes about his time in the UK. In Three Worlds, he writes about his own family, and he describes their departure from Iraq as traumatic, disorienting, and not voluntary. They were not proud Zionist migrations. They were leaving out of fear.
Ethan.
He said that himself.
Ethan.
He said,
friend.
we did not leave Iraq because we were Zionists. We left because we were no longer safe.
You are failing to comprehend a very important reason why I brought up Avi Shlaim, by the way. And here's...
Yeah, because you think he supports your claim, but he absolutely does not.
No,
That's why, because you're a fucking liar.
He absolutely does.
Contend
But
with what I
hold
said.
on, let me
No.
explain.
Contend with what I'm saying. He said we did not leave
the
Iraq
plan-
because we were Zionists. We
Ethan.
left because we were no longer safe. Do you want to explain what he meant by that? Explain what he meant by saying we didn't leave because we were Zionists. We left because we were no longer safe.
Okay, I can't
Explain
wait
to me.
I can't wait to bring up Avi Shlaim on the broadcast to make you fucking look like a dumbass. Let me
I
tell
can't
you
wait too.
something.
And now explain what he means by that. We did not leave Iraq because we were
not-
Zionists. We left because we were no longer
Iraqis
safe.
are not Palestinian. You fucking moron. You racist piece of shit. Because Iraq
What?
and the pan-Arabic nationalist
They
movements
left-
that arise out of Zionist
You are
violence
out of your
is
mind.
not about Palestinians. You
Okay,
cannot
so
make
what
this
did the Jews in
comparison.
Iraq have to do with
Zionists were
fucking
the ones
Israel,
who
you
actually
bigot?
fucking terrorized the
You are
Palestinians.
so out of your
And
mind.
then Iraqis.
Dude, you
cannot
screaming and
point to
grandstanding
Iraqis
doesn't
or
mean you're
Iraqi
right.
government's
This is pathetic.
racism during the
Okay.
pan-Arabic nationalist movements as a vindication for why, or a comparison as to why Israel had to do the Nakba.
Do you think
fucking
that...
racist piece of shit.
Thanks,
Do you
Hasan.
think Iraq? Do you think all
do you want-
Arabs have one fucking mind? Is that what
Why
you think?
the fuck were the Iraqi Jews leaving Iraq in fear?
Of course there were Iraqi Jews that left Iraq in fear.
Because
I've
why?
Never said that there
Because
were no
why?
Iraqi
Answer
Jews
the
that left
question.
Iraq in
You want to
fear.
call me racist? Why were Iraqi Jews leaving to go to
Because
Israel?
You're a fucking moron who doesn't understand.
That's why
that
they
Iraq
left. They
is
left
not
because I'm a fucking
Palestine,
moron?
That Arabs are not one-minded.
Hasan, you
That there were
coward.
numerous
You
pan-Arabic
coward.
nationalist movements.
Answer the
that
question.
were
You're going to call me
sparking up
racist,
all
but you
around
won't
the
answer.
region, Ethan.
Why did the Iraqi Jews leave Iraq?
There were numerous reasons.
Because of
why the Israeli
anti-Semitism. They hated Jewish people that had nothing to do with Israel.
Shut
They were
the fuck
forced to
up,
leave.
dude.
They were
Shut
chased
up.
out. They lived there for
hated
thousands
Jewish
of
people.
years.
Yes,
They had
everyone
businesses.
hated
They had
Jewish
homes
people.
that they were
It's weird.
forced to abandon to go to Israel because it was the only fucking place they could. Why would Iraqis hate the Jews living there if they had nothing to do with Zionism or Israel? Why?
Because settler colonialism was already
That has
taking
nothing to
place
do with
in
them, you
British
absolute
mandate
fucking
Palestine,
dumbass.
Ethan.
What does that have to do with the Iraqi Jews?
Do you think the Aliyahs were happening initially?
So
Do
it
you
was
think the
there.
Aliyahs
So
were
you're blaming
happening
them? Are you
in
blaming
one-
the Iraqi Jews who had nothing to do with it? What the fuck is your point?
I am
You
not
call me
justifying
racist.
the racism. I'm not justifying it. You're not comprehending my
Yes,
point.
you are. They
I've never
left
justified that.
because
And
the
I've
Iraq
also
turned on them
openly
after
recognized-
1948.
Ethan,
You're
I have
materially
openly
wrong. You're a liar.
recognized that there were numerous reasons why other countries, I know, hard concept, all Arab, they all
Yeah.
have the same mindset.
I
Other
know. Let's go
countries
over
and their
them,
pan-Arabic
genius.
nationalist movements as states were being
Let's go over them.
designed,
In
mostly
Egypt,
mostly by Western nations.
You want to talk facts? Let's talk facts.
Ethan, you don't know.
In
You got
Egypt.
fucking a chat GPT summary. Let me explain to you
Hey,
so
Hasan,
you can
let
fucking
me-
not look like a dumbass.
Okay. Do you want to listen or do you just want to add home?
No, I want to tell you my perspective.
No,
This is
you wanna
supposed to
talk.
be
That's
an
the problem. You
admonishment
don't
of
wanna
my-
listen.
You're
You've
supposed to be
talked
attacking my
plenty.
perspective. Let
You called me
clarify
racist,
my
bro. The
position
least you could
so
do
you
is
can
shut the fuck
understand.
up and listen to me talk, okay? The Iraqi Jews left because they were in fear of anti-Semitism. They had nothing to do with Israel or Zionism. The Arabs in Iraq, the Iraqis, turned on them because of what happened in the war in 1948. That had nothing to do with them. So if you want to blame the
not
Jews
just
for their own
1948.
anti-Semitism,
It's
you
not
go
just
right ahead, but that's
1948.
racism. Now let's talk about
I also
Egypt.
recognize that.
No, you're not. You are absolutely not. In Egypt, 75,000 Jews were displaced. Okay?
Ethan,
following anti-Jewish
Egypt
riots and
Palestine?
bombs in
Is
Egypt.
Palestinians? Is Egypt Palestinians? Is Iraq Palestinians? Why were the Palestinians never
got
allowed
nothing to
return?
do with that.
A
They were
right
forced
that
to go
every
there
single
by
one
the
of these
Arab
have
countries.
offered the Jews that were expelled or left on their own voluntarily.
listen,
These
Hasan.
are completely separate countries.
Nobody's
You
justifying
are
the
packaging them
Nakba.
together to
No,
make a
no one is
horrifying
justifying the
position.
Nakba. I'm explaining how it's fucking insanely racist to discredit the plight, the
No, you're
running
fucking
of
racist because I don't
discrimination.
discredit the plight. I think
But
you're,
I'm not justifying the Nakba. You seem to be justifying why Jews were chased out of their home country.
No, I'm not, Ethan.
Why'd
I'm
they
not
leave?
justifying
Why'd they
that
leave?
at all. You think
Why'd
that,
they leave?
You think that because you want to drive home a point that this is
Why did they
anti-Semitic.
leave their communities that have been there for 2,000 years, leaving their money, their businesses, their homes? Why did they leave?
Do you think Iraq is Palestine? Do you think Egypt is Palestine?
Nobody's defending the Nakba.
Do you think that all Arabs are operating on antiquated anti-Semitism? And if your answer is yes, why the fuck did Jews find the Ottoman Empire to be a safe haven for fucking hundreds
Where's the Ottoman
of years?
Empire?
Let's
talk about the last 100 years.
In Western
That's great.
Europe,
Yeah, the Ottoman Empire was great for the Jews. Let's talk about the last 100 years. Let's talk about 1948. Anti-Jewish riots broke out after the war. Hassan, you need to shut the fuck up and listen, okay?
Oh my God.
After the war, okay, in 1948, there was anti-Jewish riots and bombs in Egypt. Why was that? Because of the Jews? The Jews brought it on themselves? Following the establishment of
I never made
Israel.
that inference. What are you talking about?
Of course you did.
No, I didn't. I did not make that inference at all.
So they left because Zionism.
No, Ethan, if you were to listen to my words, and I use them very carefully, even though I get heated sometimes.
Careful, right.
Okay. Egypt, Iraq, Morocco, each of these countries where Jews lived in the MENA region all the way to the Levant had different reasons. Some of them were direct pogroms. Others were
You're a liar.
The colonial.
You are a tangibly, historically
Do you think that
proven
do you think
liar.
That Jews,
and I
just
feel
said
let
that
me.
some of them were because of pogroms. You're not hearing anything I'm saying. You're so conditioned into saying
No,
liar
no.
that you're undermining your own point.
The amount that left because of Zionism was minute. They were chased out. They were
Ethan.
forced to become Zionists by their oppressors because they had nowhere else to go. In Egypt, following the establishment of Israel in May 1948,
Ethan, none of these countries are
after
Palestine.
that
None of these
is
countries.
an
these
insanely
countries are-
irrelevant point. A series
Dude,
of
you
bombs
can't make a
targeted Jewish
comparison
areas in
between a
Cairo
planned
between
ethnic
June and
cleansing
September.
campaign and other
They killed
countries.
70
That's my
Jews,
point.
injured 200. They confiscated Jewish-owned businesses and synagogues were attacked and destroyed. Okay?
Ethan.
In
listen to my
1956,
words.
the Suez
One
Crisis.
is direct
1956,
violence, planned violence, and an extermination campaign. The other
approximately
is
25,000
hostility.
Jews were
The other
expelled
is
from
falsely
Egypt.
misplaced hostility.
25,000 Jews were
from
expelled.
other countries. You
So
don't
are you
have
blaming
to-
them?
You don't understand this, and you
Hold on,
will
are you
never
blaming the
understand this, I
Jews
don't
for
think.
getting? Are you blaming the Jews for being expelled from Egypt? 25,000 of them.
No, Ethan. If you listen to
Okay.
my words, you would understand.
So what is it I exaggerated about? 900,000 Jews were displaced.
Because you are making a comparison with different countries
No, I'm not.
versus one singular force that planned an extermination campaign, planned an ethnic cleansing campaign. Other countries and the reaction to it, or other countries and the previous hostility towards Jews have nothing to do with Palestinians. So making this
Of
comparison
course not. That's
is
why it's
gross.
anti-Semitic.
It's like
That's why it's anti-Semitic. It has nothing to do with Palestine, but they still got kicked out for being Jewish. That's literally what anti-Semitism.
It's like
1,000 Jews in Egypt were arrested and detained without charges. The government seized 500 Jewish-owned businesses and froze bank accounts. Expelled Jews were compelled to sign a declaration donating their property to the Egyptian state and were allowed to take only minimal personal belongings. In Algeria, 130,000 Jews were expelled. On the independence,
that's not Palestine. They're not. They're just
Dude,
Arabs. They're not the same fucking people.
So my point is very simple. They were expelled from their homes because of anti-Semitism.
Ethan, you used Egypt as an
Sorry,
example.
what is
Half of
wrong
these
about
countries
that?
You're pointing
What is
to
wrong
in the
with what I
time
just
when
said? They were
Jews
expelled.
Were literally
Hassan,
controlled
please,
by
you've got to
English
fucking
and
answer a
French,
question.
by the English and French colonial
They were
occupations.
expelled.
What are you talking about?
They were expelled because of anti-Semitism. What did I say wrong?
Oh my God.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Algeria was under French occupation. It is the design where the French occupied Algeria did not squash the attempts of expelling Jews. I'm not saying that there wasn't actually
Most Algerians were
anti-Semitic
French citizens and went to
that
France.
caused Jews to feel unsafe, Ethan.
95% of Algeria's 140,000 Jewish population.
Individual, sometimes Western powers and what they allowed in those countries on the Palestinian plight when you make this comparison. That's what I'm saying.
Is it anti-Semitic
It's like
for Jewish
saying
people to
the
get kicked out of their home?
Armenian genocide, right? The Turkish, the Ottoman Empire and the forces and the Ottoman genocide that they conducted, a mass extermination campaign, is because other fucking random countries where Armenians
No,
were
Iraq
were
happened
also
after
getting
independence and as
equally
of
dispelled, or
Jerusalem.
Turks were getting dispelled
Dude,
in other countries.
The
It's
pogrom
ironically
happened
the
as
same
a
fucking
direct
thing that, that's the way that it was
result
taught
of
in
the
the
war,
in the
bro.
past, that it was a
By the way, did you say-
necessary voluntary migration.
By the way,
because,
did you? Oh my God, bro! Did you say Anne Frank died before she could resist? I don't know if that was a fever dream.
Wait, I'm saying that like. Would you have an issue with Anne Frank if she actually was able to fucking
Sorry, I just thought it was an insane thing to say. I'm not trying to litigate it. In Tripoli,
wait,
anti-Jewish riots
what's your point?
broke out
What's your
amid
point? What's your point
post-war
about Anne Frank?
unrest.
Yes, I did.
Synagogues
Okay.
were burned.
What's your point
Jewish
about Anne Frank?
institutions were shut
What's
down.
your point about Anne Frank? Why are you trying to deflect away from what I'm saying here?
That she's no, I just think that statement was insane.
Why
The
was that an
Six-Day War
insane-
backlash.
Whoa.
In 1967, another
My question
Israel
for you
victory,
was, would you
mob
hate on
Jews,
Anne Frank
Jewish
if she
communities
wasn't a
got mobbed.
pacifist?
6,000 Jews were evacuated, homes were destroyed, synagogues were burned. In Morocco, 250,000 Jews were expelled. Anti-Jewish riots broke out in 1948. You'll notice all of these, most of these pogroms are happening in 1948 as a direct result of the war. The Arabs turned on their Jewish populace out of anti-Semitism, period, point blank. June 7 to 8, 1948. In northeastern Morocco, following the declaration of state of independence, the state of Israel on May 14, 1948, anti-Jewish riots erupted in the town of Jarada. These towns were significant transit points for Moroccan Jews seeking to immigrate. 47 Jews were killed, many were injured, Jewish homes and businesses were looted and damaged and destroyed. In 1950, 1960, harassment and immigration. The year following 1948 riot, Moroccan Jews faced increased pressure. These factors contributed to a significant immigration of Jews from Morocco. Immigration to Israel was banned in 1959, but before that, 274,000 Moroccan Jews immigrated primarily to Israel. Yemen and Aden.
Remember when
Yemen,
you said you weren't a Zionist?
50,000.
Remember when you said
riot.
you weren't a Zionist? These are direct Zionist talking points.
This is historical facts, literally spread by your very own Avi Schleim, who, if I'll quote him back to you, said, we didn't leave because we were Zionists.
On top of
we
this,
did not
Avi
leave
Schleim's
because we were Zionists. We left because we were afraid.
Ethan, that's the difference. If you asked Avi Schleim whether it is comparable to say the Nakba and the 900,000 Jews that left
I'm not defending
from
the Nakba.
separate countries, he would laugh at you.
Your failure to acknowledge the trauma of both groups is the reason why you are a radical fucking propagandist liar. Both trauma needs to be acknowledged by both groups. There's two things that need to be true for this ever to be resolved peacefully.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Palestinian
Israel
self-determination and the Israelis' right to have secure borders. As long as you ignore that, there will always be war. Palestinians will always die, and you will continue to make money from it. Operation Magic Carpet. Jews were secretly airlifted to Israel due to rising hostility.
It's so interesting because
50,000 were relocated. In Tunisia, 130,000 after
the PLO did recognize that, and they wanted those countries to actually do a right to return for all Jews. Why did Israel stop that from happening, Ethan? Don't you think that Zionism is the problem here?
Avi Schleim said,
what happened? They didn't fucking send you that clip? They didn't send you that fucking piece of information? So the PLO, Yasser Arafat, the people that don't care about Jewish plight, actually did see wrongdoing
the guy who
that
oversaw
happened
the
to the
second
Jews
Intifada? What the fuck are you on about?
Go back and do a right to return if they wanted to do so into their nation of origin, as a matter of fact.
I'm talking about the
and yet
flights,
Israel was
bro.
the one who didn't
You
want that
deny
to
the
happen.
flight
Why
of
is that
Middle
the case,
Eastern
Ethan?
Jews. No, you deny the flight. You deny the trauma of Middle Eastern Jews.
I don't deny the flight, Ethan.
You
don't
absolutely
understand.
deny the
you
trauma.
Are attributing,
No, you
are
deny
making
that
a
they left by.
comparison
You try to
between-
say that they left by choice. That is a gross historical
no, there are
inaccuracy.
Jews that left by choice. That is true.
Yes, some did.
There are
Of the
Jews that absolutely
900,000, the
left by
vast majority
choice.
left because they were afraid.
Ethan,
Because they were being
there
discriminated
are
against.
Jews
That is a
that-
historical fact.
Have
Six-Day
you ever
War
actually
aftermath.
listened to a clip of me talking about this?
What?
Oh my God, you have no idea what my perspective on this is. You're just fucking
Hey, of course,
yelling at nothing.
Well, what are you doing right now?
Oh
What are you
my
wasting time
God.
for, buddy?
This is the reason why you're repeating.
No, I
shit
have
that
heard you
have not
talk about
fucking-
it
the
time
shit
and
that I
time
don't
again.
actually believe.
Bro, you are continually, not
Oh my
acknowledging
God.
the trauma of Middle Eastern
Oh my
Jews.
God.
You characterize it like they left.
Have you ever listened,
Yes,
have
I've
you ever
seen
listened
it.
to anything that's not 30 seconds long?
Yes, bro.
From me?
That's
Have
so
you?
ironic that you're saying that as
I'm
you
literally in
misquote
front of you
Avi
right now,
Schleim,
and
who
I'm
said
trying to
he
describe my
fled
position
because he was
that I've
afraid
made clear
and not because
numerous
of Zion.
times
Here's the
over and
clip.
over again,
Here's
but
the
you're too
clip.
busy trying to get a gotcha
Here's the
here,
clip.
so you can fucking
Here's
farm
the
a clip.
clip.
But everyone's still gonna think you're a fucking loser, dude.
Here's
I'm
the
sorry.
clip.
Just shut up and listen if you want to actually hear my
Here's the clip.
perspective.
I'm shutting up and listening to you.
Okay, thank you.
For the Iraqi Jews Because when anti-Semitism increases in the West, Israel sees that as a complementary
This is
tool
not the
to its
fucking
Zionist
clip that I'm
project,
talking
its
about, by
Zionist
the way.
ambition of bringing either all Jews to Israel, or at least make Jews in the Western world that are outside of Israel, Jews in diaspora, support Israel, because it gives additional credence to the argument. It gives additional credence to the argument that no Jew is ever safe if there is no Jewish state. That is the underpinning of the Zionist project in general.
Why did you not mention the anti-Semitism? You exclusively talk about Zionism being the reason for forcing them out. Why do you deny that they were expelled by force, the vast majority of them?
Ethan, if you think that that is the entirety of my perspective on this matter,
illuminate me.
You please need to stop talking and listen to the amount of times that I've talked about this. Okay?
Oh, just explain yourself.
I'm trying, but you keep
I just watched a
interjecting.
clip of you being pretty dismissive about the flight. And by the way, you've done it this whole time. You say that Zionism was the main
about
force.
the aspect that this is beneficial to the Zionist project across the board, because Israel wants all Jews to be constantly fucking terrified in any other country that's not Israel, so that they can actually go and either support Israel if they're not in Israel, or just move to Israel. That is the entire point. That is what Jabotinsky wanted. That is what Herzl wanted. And that is precisely what Benjamin Netanyahu wants as well. So in terms of my explanation, or what I come across as dismissive, is precisely the role that Israel itself played in this process.
Which
because
was
it was a
minuscule.
mutually beneficial relationship that anti-Semitic pogroms did take
Minuscule.
place.
What you fail to acknowledge is that the Jews were forced to become Zionists, not by choice, but by necessity.
Oh my
because the
God.
Arab countries turned on them after the war and
Yes, I
forced
get the
them to
position
go
that
to
you're
the
trying
only
to arrive
state
at, which is
that they
it's
could
a
go to.
necessity for Israel to exist, which is what your position is, right?
No, it's not about what was allowed or not. The Arabs created 1 million Zionists because they're anti-Semitic after the War of 1948 and fucking the rise of Arab nationalism. Do you deny that?
You brought up Morocco.
Do you
as an
deny what I just said?
Wait, say it again. I
Do
wasn't
you
listening.
deny what I just said?
Say it again. I wasn't listening.
900,000 Jews, approximately 700 to 900,000, were forced to become Zionists, not by choice, but because they were forced out.
Who
The
forced
vast
them?
majority went to the fucking Arabs. The Arabs, the
There you
anti-Semitic
go.
Arabs.
There you go.
What? There you go. What? That's my point. Are you
I rest
okay?
my case.
Okay, well, I mean,
No,
you
you're
can.
too fucking delusional to realize what kind of racist nonsense you're fucking
That's
chirping on. That was my
unbelievable,
entire
bro.
point. Thank
It's
you.
historic. I mean, it's historical. You don't know anything of what you're talking about. Avi Schleim, once again, because you don't want to contend, you like to use him when it's convenient. He left not because they were Zionists. They left because they were
fucking
afraid.
Arabs. What was Avi Schleim, by the way?
Yeah, he was an Arab Jew. They didn't see him that way. They kicked his ass out. I'm not saying
interesting.
fucking Arabs.
Does he not-
There's a reason for it. There was a rise in Arab nationalism following the 1948 war. They blamed their own Jewish populace for what Israel did. That's anti-Semitism.
Arabs,
They had
right?
nothing to do. Do you think
Yeah.
the Iraqi Jews left their 2,000-year-old communities, left their businesses, left their houses because they wanted to go to Israel? Are you fucking mad?
Ethan, remember
you
a while back
deny.
I tweeted and you got really mad when I said that there's a double standard between Islamophobia and
There's
anti-Semitism?
absolutely a double standard, and you exhibit
and
it,
you're
my friend.
participating in it right now without even recognizing that
It's
you're
historical.
doing so.
I mean, I'm just
Yeah,
telling
it's
you
just
literally what
historical
happened.
racism. All Arabs are not
They were
responsible.
racist. Do people never get racist? Do people never be? I'm explaining why. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just explaining why. After the
No, dude, you don't
1948
understand.
war,
That's not even
the
the point
rise
of
of Arab
contention here.
nationalism
You're having a hard time
created a
comprehending
lot
what I'm
of anti-Semitism, and that's why the vast majority of the Jews, the 900,000 of them, were forced to immigrate. That's a fact. That is a historical fact.
Ethan, I'm sorry to say this, and I don't know if your audience gets this as well, but what you just said earlier is not an accurate reflection of history. It's just pure
How do you know that?
racism.
How do you know that?
You
How do
are
you know that it's
shifting
not
the
real?
blame over to the entirety
absolutely
of Arabs.
was
at a
the blame
time
of
when
the
every
Arabs.
single one of these Arab countries with
Absolutely.
their
Who
own
else
version
kicked
of
them out?
pan-Arabic nationalism.
They
Half of
kicked
them
them
were
out.
already still controlled, by the way, by fucking European colonial powers like Vichy France.
That was literally
designing
just
the
in
Moroccan
Tunisia,
expulsion
okay?
program. and you're using that as a similarity between the planned expulsion of 750,000 Palestinians.
Yeah, I mean, the details are different, but you're denying. Like, once again,
it's like
you're still not disproving me. What did I say that is hilariously racist and wrong?
Anti-German racism.
Don't make an analogy. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Anti-German racism.
I don't need an analogy. I need facts from you. Why am I wrong?
It's as though you are pointing to anti-German racism happening during the fucking German conquest.
Tell me a fact, right, that proves that I'm wrong. That the vast majority of Jews fled because of anti-Semitism in the Arab states.
It's not what you're saying.
So I didn't say anything wrong.
I didn't say anything wrong.
I didn't say anything wrong, but I'm racist.
It's the idea that all Arabs are fucking one-minded and have something to do with Palestinians in general. Yes, I never said that there wasn't any fucking anti-Jewish sentiment that also.
Were the vast majority of Jews, did they leave because of anti-Semitism or Zionism?
The vast majority of Jews, regardless of whether or not they left for anti-Semitism or Zionist purposes, is not comparable to the Nakba.
You're not answering.
It is not comparable to the Nakba.
I don't care. That's got nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I'm not comparing them. And then, by the way, they're both.
You made that comparison to say, like, to make it seem as though it was a much larger crime.
No, because people like you ignore the trauma of the fact that you want to tell that people in Israel to go back to where they came from. This is where they're from. They were forced to go to Israel.
They could right now. They could go tomorrow.
Really? The Iraqi Jews can go back to their home tomorrow. The Egyptian Jews can go back to their homes tomorrow.
Absolutely.
That is insane.
What
you
are
you fucking out of your mind.
They absolutely
how?
Can.
Tell me how. How do the Jews go back to their?
And I understand why they wouldn't want to, because America fucking invaded and
they want
Iraq.
to.
But yes,
why
they could.
How?
What do you mean?
How would they go back and reclaim their lost assets, their lost property?
There were literally different schemes designed at this.
And by the way, how did they become citizens?
At different points throughout. At different points throughout this 76-year-long, drawn-out apartheid structure, there were numerous instances where, yes, there was a right to return offered to Jews and even restitution for the homes that they lost in the process. So, yes, you're wrong. You simply don't know the facts. You are wrong.
You won't say what fact I'm getting wrong.
I just told you.
Did the vast majority of Jews immigrate to Israel following 1948 because of Zionism or because of anti-Semitism?
No. Don't run away from this point.
Answer the fucking question.
I don't discount anti-Semitism as a direct consequence of pan-Arabic nationalism that took place in numerous countries. I have issues with your comparison. Okay?
Who's comparing? You keep saying that. I'm not talking about the Nakba. I'm talking about your unwillingness to recognize Jewish plight.
You brought that up deliberately to say more Jews were displaced than Palestinians were.
I think that's an interesting fact that you clearly don't fucking ever want to mention because it really messes up your beautiful little narrative.
So why did you bring that fact up right after you talked about the 1948 war?
Because the point is
that
two people were traumatized.
I think that comparison is disgusting.
There was two people that were traumatized. There was two people that were displaced unfairly. It was the Palestinians and it was the Middle Eastern Jews. They both have trauma. You failed to acknowledge one group. You shit on the other one. I, unlike you, acknowledge both groups. I acknowledge both groups. You acknowledge one. What?
That's what you're doing. And you're also attributing.
How? How am I doing that?
You're attributing anti-Semitic violence in different countries to.
At the same time, following 1948, pan-Arab nationalism. You said that yourself.
Yes.
These 5 Arab countries were defeated in 1948, and they turned super fucking anti-Semitic as a result. They became ultra-nationalist Arabs. It became popular. As Israel declared independence, they said, "Fuck no, we don't want this country here." And yeah, they all became anti-Semitic. That's a historical fact that you denied.
You also failed to recognize that Iraqi Jews have been allowed to return to Iraq, and there have been numerous instances where Jews were given an opportunity to return.
How many Jews live in Iraq?
But you don't want.
How many Jews live in Iraq?
What?
How many Jewish people
right now? But they can.
How many Jews live in the Middle East outside of Israel?
Why would it? Why do you
virtually
think
none? Where'd they go? If it was so fucking great for them,
Jews not want to go to Iraq? You think right now?
0 Jews, almost virtually 0 Jews live outside of Israel in the Middle East. Why is that? You don't think that none of them wanted to fucking stay at home?
I don't know. Maybe
None
because
of them.
because there was a religious ethno-supremacist state that was backed by a lot of Western states as a direct destabilizer in the fucking region with mass migration happening, especially, of course, mass migration happening, and then in the aftermath of the Holocaust with a shit ton more refugees coming in was a much more viable state for them.
Here's the problem.
Viability of said state, of course, is partially a consequence of the other countries and the hostility that people felt towards Jewish people.
You don't want to blame the Arabs.
This in and of itself is the heart of the problem, because people conflate Zionism with Judaism, and you do that.
That's what the Arabs did when they kicked them all out.
I know, and I don't think it's appropriate. That's
and
my
so
point.
why are you blaming the Zionists and not the fucking Arabs for being racist? Why do you deny the Jewish trauma?
Arabs.
Why do you deny the 900,000 traumatized Jews that were forced, including, by the way, what you keep ignoring, Avi Schleim.
Quick question.
Avi Schleim said we didn't leave Iraq because we were Zionists. We left because we were afraid. Are you hearing that?
Ethan, do you blame the English for the Holocaust?
No.
Who did the Holocaust, Ethan?
Just fucking make your point. I'm not playing this
Come on,
silly
who
game.
did the Holocaust? Just say it.
Make your point, dude. I'm not a fucking...
Why not? I'm asking you a question. It's a super simple question.
Avi Schleim said we left Iraq
I asked
because...
you who was responsible for the Holocaust?
Why would I answer such a stupid rhetorical question? Just make your point.
Wait, you know the answer to this, right? Like, come on, what are you looking at on your fucking computer? Like, which country is responsible for the Holocaust?
Anytime you want to make your point.
What?
I would appreciate.
Wait, what is happening? Dude, when you already, okay, here, whatever. You said already.
I would appreciate if you would just listen to one thing I would say.
It wasn't the English, right? It's not the responsibility of the British that the Holocaust happened, right? You understand that. You recognize that, right?
Well, I would say the nation most directly guilty for the Holocaust was probably Nazi Germany.
Okay. Did you just read that from your laptop?
No,
Okay,
I'm
whatever.
eloquent, unlike your dumbass.
I mean, yes, it is. Okay. Notice how you don't actually
I'm fabulous,
put every
bitch.
single fucking country. There was plenty of anti-Semitism in England too. Notice how you don't fucking say all Europe. All of Europe is responsible for the Holocaust.
Was there concentration camps in the UK?
All Arabs.
Okay.
The point is,
there's no Jews in the Middle East. None. Can you listen to one thing? I have one thing important to say that I really want you just to listen to, okay? Avi Schleim said they did not leave Iraq because they were Zionists. They left because they were afraid.
Yes.
You are denying his family's trauma.
Oh
you are blaming his family's trauma on Zionists.
Will you talk to him about this?
Sure. I mean, he's going to agree with that. I read it from his fucking book.
If you're so confident in all of this, okay, that would be great. All right. Perfect. Okay.
So listen.
No, you should.
I'll debate all these people instead of you. I have time. Unfortunately, like I said, it's getting late, so I just want to make one last point before we go, which is that always remember, Hasan, that when people criticize me, I watch it on my stream by myself live, unlike a bitch-made coward like yourself who needs someone to hold your hand, make all the excuses in the world to avoid any single criticism, any response. You, my friend, are a coward, and I am the fucking legend that responded to it live with zero hesitation. But you know why? Because I'm not a liar.
How many committee attributed to
Hasan, how many civilians died in the 20 years in the ANC during the ANC's?
It was like 200, I think, or
less than 100. How many people did Hamas kill on one day? Nelson Mandela, which I'll read you a quote from his trial. I'll read you a quote.
Are you comparing the apartheid structure in South Africa to 76 years of colonial occupation?
Don't you do that all the time?
No, the number is
You call it
far
apartheid
larger,
all the time.
and the militancy has gotten far more radical as a direct consequence of Israel becoming far more radical. Because as I told you, and you seemingly understood when we first had this conversation after October 7, that the maintenance of an apartheid is an inherently violent endeavor. And as a matter of fact, the resistance to said apartheid is only going to get worse and worse as time moves on. This is precisely the reason why the first intifada was fought with stones, little children throwing rocks, and the second intifada in the aftermath of horrific acts of terror against Palestinians who were at a mosque praying. The second intifada, as a matter of fact, was fought with bombs.
Historical quote. I'm not just grandstanding. Mandela, from his trial in 1960, said, and I quote, "There were 4 forms of violence that were possible. One was sabotage, one was guerrilla warfare, one was terrorism, and then there was open revolution. We chose to adopt the first method as it exhausted it before taking any other decision. In light of our political background, the choice was a logical one. Sabotage did not involve loss of life, and it offered the best hope for future race relations. Bitterness would be kept minimum, and if a policy bore fruit, democratic government could become a reality. This is what we felt at the time, and this is what we said in our manifesto.
Keep going.
We have always sought to achieve liberation without bloodshed and civil clash. We hope, even at this late hour, that our first actions will awaken everyone to the realization that the disastrous situation which the nationalist policy is leading. We hope that we will bring the government and its supporters to their senses before it's too late, so that both the government and its policies can be changed before matters reach the desperate state of war."
Notice how the end part of that is getting ready for rebellion. I feel like given the...
Did they?
Yeah, because the
No, they
apartheid
didn't.
structure dissolved as a direct consequence of pressure campaigns and also militancy, which Nelson Mandela not once but twice was presented
what's
with
Hamas
the
doing
option
for
of having a
liberation?
sentence commuted, which he refused to do. They said,
On
Nelson
principle,
Mandela, if you
bro.
disavow violence...
On principle. He said, I will not remain in jail because a prisoner can't negotiate. A prisoner
Yes,
can't
that was
decide.
the first time.
He said
And in both
no
circumstances,
both times. He
in
refused
both
on
circumstances,
principle.
in
Less
both
than 100
circumstances-
people died during the 20-year period. Anyone that attacked civilians, they were disavowed. The ANC repeatedly apologized and disavowed violence against civilians.
When did they do that?
Less than 100 civilians died.
When did they do that?
Hamas killed 1,000 civilians
they
on
do
one
that?
fucking day.
1,000 civilians. The
Yeah.
poor civilian Israeli soldiers that died in their military bases. The civilians.
No, there was like, bro, you're so dumb.
What do you mean I'm so dumb? These numbers
Okay,
matter.
how many civilians died? How many civilians died?
I believe the total number of casualties in October 7 was 1,200, with 800 being civilians, which is completely unacceptable,
Oh my
mind you,
God,
and
I'm
400
off
being
by 100.
military members.
I was off by 100. Oh my God, dude, I can't believe the historical
Well, you just
inaccuracies.
made a
You're an
big.
idiot.
You're the one who's bringing up numbers here, Ethan. And yes, I do think it's
was
important to
virtually correct.
recognize something here that you are seemingly failing to recognize. Nelson Mandela was thrown in prison because he went and trained with the FLN in Algeria. The reason why he stayed in fucking prison was because he refused to disavow violence, because he understood that as long as peaceful
Sabotage is
revolution
violence.
is
I didn't say he's a
impossible,
pacifist.
that
I never said
violent
he's a
revolution
pacifist.
is inevitable. And violent
and I never said
revolution
he's a
they did
pacifist.
do.
You know what's funny?
In terms of the death and destruction on the apartheid structure, by the way, it
Was
is
Nelson Mandela
incomprehensible to compare
Zionist?
that to Israel's violence against the Palestinians.
Was
What Israel has
Nelson
done to the
Mandela
Palestinians is
a
far worse.
Zionist?
And by the way, that's not my assessment. What Israel has done to the Palestinians for the past 76 years is infinitely worse. And
Well,
that
let's
is not
ask
my
someone that lived
assessment,
through
by the way.
apartheid.
That is the assessment of Mandela. And for all the, for all of the moments that he was able to fucking
You think
see.
Mandela said what's happening is worse than what we went through? That's bullshit. Why would he say that? That's
Why
not
would he
your
say that?
life.
Because it's true, Ethan. That's
Okay.
why.
Is Nelson Mandela a Zionist?
Yes, Nelson Mandela. Are you going to say in 1999 he said Israel has a legal right to exist? In that
More
same
than
speech that you're
He
going to
said more
fucking
than
clip,
that.
champ.
Remember that you called this guy a neo-Nazi, not fit to be a dog catcher.
Who?
That's
what?
what you said about
Wait,
Nelson
wait,
Mandela.
what are you
Yeah,
talking
what?
about?
Yeah, you-
Whoa, whoa, whoa. You're jumping off like a million different points.
The
What?
right of Israel to exist as a state legally. We have stood quite openly and firmly for the right of that state to exist within secured borders.
You disagree with that statement?
Does Israel has a right to exist? Not in the way
Within-
that it currently
wi-
does.
with the
Ethan,
insecure
hold on,
borders.
Hold on.
Coward.
Do you know what he says after that clip?
Yeah, that he also thinks that Palestinians also need to be acknowledged, which, by the way, is my fucking point.
No, not that.
Palestinian liberation and Israeli borders are two sides of the same coin.
He didn't just say Palestinians also need to be acknowledged.
What did he say?
He says that if peaceful means of coexistence is impossible, then violence is inevitable, Ethan. Why did you clip that out of the fucking clip chimp that you posted, Ethan?
You saying I clip chimp Nelson Mandela?
Yes, you literally did. You cut him out of context because it doesn't suit your fucking purpose.
What do you mean? He's talking philosophically. He's talking philosophically.
We're having a conversation about Nelson Mandela and whether or not he actually believes in violence. Whether or not he actually believes in violence. You have said time and time again that he was a peaceful dove. He's never actually done any violence whatsoever.
I literally didn't.
There are numerous instances on
Inevitability, a philosophical warning, is not an endorsement. He was speaking as a warning to them, which was apt.
Brother, that is insane.
What?
Nelson Mandela was literally on a terror watch list since 2008.
Who gives a fuck?
What do you mean, who gives a fuck? You like to use the terrorism watch list when you're talking about the Houthis, or you like to use the terrorist watch list when you're talking about Hezbollah and Hamas.
I mean, I gave you specific examples of why those organizations are bad.
Who do you think that was a? Who do you think that was a?
I don't.
Who do you think the philosophical point that he was making? The guy who was in prison for violent resistance, by the way, who trained militancy,
violent resistance? You mean
ready
sabotage?
for rebellion, by the way. Who
Sabotage
do you
and
think
give
that
government
was a warning
infrastructure.
to? Do you think that was a warning to Palestinians, or do you think that was a warning to Israel?
Fact that
because
you are
that
so
same Nelson
willing.
Mandela has time and time again also repeated that no one is free until Palestine is free. That same Nelson Mandela that you're trying to fucking use in this situation has said that this is a united struggle, that Israel's actions against the Palestinians are abhorrent, that it is akin to what they have experienced in apartheid South Africa, if not worse. So the idea that you can make this comparison because you think
I want Palestine to be free, my friend.
is so stupid. And the only way you can do that is by cutting it out of context.
No, I just explained why. Dude, I want Palestine to be free. But you know what? I don't think Hamas is furthering that goal. I think Hamas is counterproductive. They're making it worse. They're causing it to be inevitable. You refuse to criticize them, which is pathetic.
Why are they
Unlike
making it
me,
worse, Ethan?
I'm willing
Why
to
are they making it
criticize the
worse?
Israeli
Why are they
government.
making it
I'm willing to
worse?
come to terms with the cruel reality.
No.
Hamas.
Why are they making it worse?
Well, what was the fucking objective there on October 7th, genius?
Kidnapping, which, by the way, I don't even agree with, which is an international human rights violation. But kidnapping Israeli soldiers, Israeli civilians to draw out.
And what part about that was slaughtering fucking families in their homes?
Ethan, I don't agree.
Their goal was
with
to
the
kill
tactics.
civilians.
You know this already. We're not relitigating this over and over again. After
I'm just saying,
17
Hamas
years,
is a bunch of
months fucking genocide.
All right.
Okay.
Apologize. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Listen.
I have the rest of the clip that you clipped, Chip, by the way, if you want to hear his actual fucking full-fleshed opinions.
I'm not hiding from it. I literally acknowledge what he said. I don't care.
But so why did you say that he was actually? Why did you say that he was
point
actually
I was making
a peaceful resistance type of guy?
When did I say that? When the fuck did I say that, you liar?
You said it on numerous occasions, as opposed to
Lie.
you said that on numerous occasions before someone
said
told
he
you.
used
No, actually,
violent.
here's a better way to massage that.
You
narrative.
are a liar. I said he uses violent means such as sabotage. He didn't kill
Ethan,
civilians. That's what I said.
Will you stop talking if I show you numerous instances where you have said Nelson Mandela was peaceful?
I'm not gonna. You get those together, okay?
I mean, there's.
You're
You
gonna
said he
do
was a
great.
pacifist.
You're gonna do great.
Ethan,
yeah,
you
go ahead and
literally
grab
said he was a
those.
pacifist to Sam
I
Cedar.
never said Nelson Mandela was a pacifist.
Ethan, you said it
That
to
is an insane lie.
You said it to Sam Cedar 2 days ago.
So you got to watch that back because you're once again a liar. You have no problem lying. You have no problem saying that I work with the ADO without any evidence. You
Ethan,
fucking have no
you've
problem
said on
discrediting
numerous
the
occasions
suffering
that
of
Nelson
Jewish
Mandela
refugees.
is a pacifist.
Okay, well, prove
And
it.
the full quote, by the way, of Nelson Mandela is from when he visited Gaza in 1999.
When did I call him a
that I was referring to.
pacifist?
Choose
That's
peace rather
insane.
than confrontation, except in cases where we cannot move forward. Then, if the only alternative is violence, we will use violence.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a pacifist to you?
I meant that he didn't kill civilians.
Do you think Nelson
His
Mandela
approach
would fuck
is
with the
vastly
Houthis?
different than what Hamas
Do you
is
think
doing.
Nelson Mandela would like what the Houthis are doing?
I don't know. Let's fucking dig him out of his grave and ask him.
That's kind of weird because, I mean, you said he was doing peaceful means of resistance.
Do
like
I think Nelson
sabotage.
Mandela would be in favor of kidnapping 10 civilians? No,
Yes,
of course
he would.
not.
100% he would.
All right. Well, while you're busy putting words in a dead man's
100% he
mouth.
would. What are you talking about? Nelson Mandela bombed the fucking church and shit. What are you talking about? Not Nelson Mandela directly.
He
was in prison,
didn't fuck with civilians, bro. That was his thing. He wanted to be as peaceful as possible because he knew that if he killed and targeted civilians, it would make reunification impossible.
Israel's doing
That's
a
a
genocide because
historical
Palestinians are not
fact.
resisting in the
Less than
appropriate
100
ways.
civilians died in 20-year period. I mean, what do you want more than that? Hamas killed 1,000 or 900. So sorry.
800. But also,
I am so 800. You're right. You know what? That's better.
It's seemingly important. You're the one who's bringing up numbers. Now, what you again fail to recognize is, of course, the length, and not only that, but also the resistance against apartheid South Africa included military resistance on top of that. But that's not even my point here. Okay.
Huh?
My point is that the apartheid in South Africa and the resistance against it was a far shorter period with far less casualties on the South African side as opposed to Israel's complete ethnic cleansing campaign that is has started now, but even before its ethnic cleansing campaign.
Well, then don't compare Hamas to Nelson Mandela.
Because the situation is far worse, Ethan. Because Israel has killed every Nelson Mandela. Israel would have probably killed Nelson Mandela if they had the opportunity to do so.
I'm sure, and they would have done everything bad that's ever happened in the world.
Wait, do you know why I said that? No, don't look at your laptop. Do you know why I said that?
I'm not. Let me guess. You, I don't. Oh, tell me.
No, go ahead. Just throw up a guess.
All right, listen. It's 5 o'clock. I'm not doing this.
Oh, you don't want to do this?
You can tell me, or you cannot. You want to? I'll stand here if you want to tell me, but I'm not going to sit here and play rhetorical
Israel was
games.
aligned with South Africa, the apartheid government, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I know. They made nuclear bombs with them. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's horrible.
What's that have to do with anything, fuckhead? When did I defend
well,
that?
Both apartheids. So.
Yeah, and when did I deny that? All right, listen, it's 5 o'clock. Like I said, I have a family to go to. I have 3 kids and a wife, and I know that you have a fucking cool-ass race car bed to sleep in, and I hope you enjoy that.
Okay, man. Thank you. Have a good one. I hope this was productive. Dan, keep up the energy as though you feel that there is a genocide going on, because your output is what matters here, and that is what I was trying to get across to you and get across to your audience. If you think that I
acknowledge that I acknowledge that I could talk about it more, and I should make more of an effort to talk about it.
Okay, thank you. Instead of going after pro-Palestinian,
and you should try not to be a fucking raging anti-Semite for a day.
What?
If you can try not to be a raging anti-Semite for a day, then we can shake hands.
I don't think you actually believe that I'm anti-Semitic. I think you're hysterical.
You should watch back the first part of this interview.
What?
You should watch back the first part of this interview.
I don't think that makes you look good.
Okay, well, I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, we'll wait.
Unfortunately, I think your people are going to think it makes you look good, and then everybody else is going to think that might look good. Like, who gives a fuck?
Yes,
at the end of the day,
I'm sure that
it's not a swastika. It's just a swastika sword. It's not a swastika. It's just the sword that I called the swastika sword. Got it. All right, have a good night, Hasan.
All right, you too.
I got to go.
You too, buddy.
You take care, bud.
All right.
Old friend.
God damn, what a fucking exercise in futility. I did lose my shit a little bit towards the end.